Chapter 1. The Spider's Choice. What if Varys brought Jon Snow before Daenerys at Volantis and the mother of dragons Knelt? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The Red Keep sleeps in the depths of night, its towering walls casting long shadows across the empty courtyards. Within the Tower of the Hand, a single candle flickers in the solar, where Kevan Lannister pores over documents and ledgers. The Regent of the Seven Kingdoms works late into the night, his weathered face drawn with exhaustion, as he attempts to restore order to a realm torn by war and chaos. Kevan sets down his quill and rubs his temples. At 56 years of age, he has spent months trying to undo the damage his niece Cersei inflicted during her brief but destructive rule. The faith militant has been appeased, the crown's debts are slowly being addressed, and the various factions threatening young King Tommen's reign are being carefully managed through diplomacy rather than bloodshed. The door to the solar opens without warning. "Lord Kevan," comes a soft voice from the shadows. Kevan looks up to see a familiar figure emerge from the darkness. Varys, the master of whisperers, steps into the candlelight. His pale, bald head gleams in the flickering glow, and his soft hands are folded before him with their customary gentleness. The eunuch moves with that same quiet grace that has served him well in the halls of power for decades. "Lord Varys," Kevan says, his voice carefully neutral. "It is rather late for a visit." "Indeed it is," Varys replies, closing the door behind him with a soft click. "But the work we do in service to the realm knows no proper hours, does it not?" Kevan's eyes narrow slightly. Something in the spymaster's tone suggests this is no ordinary midnight consultation. He sets down his papers and gives Varys his full attention. "You have been doing excellent work, my lord," Varys continues, moving closer to the desk, "reconciling Highgarden and Casterly Rock, binding the faith to your little king, uniting the Seven Kingdoms under Tommen's rule. Truly excellent work." The praise feels wrong in Varys's mouth, like honey laced with poison. "You disapprove," Kevan observes. "Oh, quite the contrary," Varys says with a slight smile. "I admire your competence greatly. That is precisely the problem." Kevan's hand moves subtly toward the drawer where he keeps a dagger, but Varys makes no threatening gesture. Instead, the eunuch begins to pace slowly around the solar, his soft slippers silent on the stone floor. "You see, my lord, you are undoing all the Queen's good work, all that beautiful chaos she created, all those lovely feuds and resentments that would have served the realm so well in the days to come." "Served whom?" Kevan asks sharply. "Why, the rightful rulers of Westeros, of course," Varys replies, "the blood of the dragon." For a moment, the two men regard each other in silence. Kevan understands now why Varys has come. The spymaster's true loyalties have always been suspect. But tonight, they stand revealed. "Aegon," Kevan says simply. "Prince Aegon Targaryen. Yes, Rhaegar's son with Elijah of Dawn. Very much alive and gathering strength across the narrow sea." Varys stops his pacing and fixes Kevan with those soft, knowing eyes. "A young man raised to rule wisely and justly. Everything the realm deserves after the long nightmare of Robert's reign and the catastrophe that followed." Kevan slowly pushes back from his desk and rises to his feet. "And Tommen?" "A sweet boy," Varys says, with genuine warmth. "But not the rightful king, as we both know. The product of an incestuous union that has no claim to the Iron Throne. Aegon's return will correct that unfortunate situation. By plunging the realm into yet another war. By restoring the natural order," Varys counters. "But your excellent administration threatens to make that restoration far more difficult than it needs to be. Hence my visit tonight." Kevan's hand finds the dagger's hilt. But as he moves to draw the blade, Varys holds up a single pale finger. "Wait," the eunuch says softly. "Before we proceed down this path, allow me to pose a question, my lord. What if there were another way?" Something in Varys's voice gives Kevan pause. The spymaster's expression has shifted, becoming more thoughtful, almost wondering. "Another way?" Kevan asks. "Another dragon," Varys says slowly, as if the words are taking shape even as he speaks them. "One whose claim might be even stronger than Prince Aegon's." Kevan stares at the eunuch, trying to read the calculation behind those soft features. "Speak plainly." Varys moves to the window and gazes out at the sleeping city below. "Tell me, my lord, what do you know of Jon Snow?" The question seems to come from nowhere. Kevan frowns. "Ned Stark's bastard. He took the Black years ago. Serves at Castle Black now, I believe. What possible relevance?" "Lord Commander Jon Snow," Varys corrects gently. "The 998th to hold that title. A young man of 17 years, bastard born but noble raised, dark of hair and grey of eye, with the look of the North about him. What does Stark's bastard have to do with dragons?" Varys turns from the window with a small smile playing at his lips. "What if I told you that Jon Snow is no bastard at all? What if Ned Stark's great secret was not that he sired a child on some tavern wench, but that he claimed another man's son as his own?" Kevan feels a chill run down his spine. "Whose son?" "Rhaegar Targaryen's," Varys says simply. "Born of his union with Lyanna Stark in Dorne. Born in the shadow of the Tower of Joy, where Arthur Dayne and his sworn brothers died, defending their prince's son." The solar falls silent, except for the soft crackling of the candle flame. Kevan stares at the spymaster, his mind racing through the implications. "That's impossible," he says, finally. "Is it?" Varys asks mildly. "Think on it, my lord. Ned Stark returns from Dorne with a newborn babe, claiming it as his own despite having been married to Catelyn Tully for less than a year. A man renowned for his honor suddenly admits to adultery? A man who loved his sister above all else suddenly abandons her memory for the beds of common women? Kevan sinks back into his chair, the dagger forgotten. If this is true, then Jon Snow is not merely a dragon, Varys says softly. He is the dragon, Rhaegar's firstborn son, ahead of Aegon in the succession, ahead of any other claimant, save, perhaps, Daenerys Targaryen, indeed, the Dragon Queen in Meereen, another potential ally rather than rival, if the matter were handled correctly. Varys returns to the desk and leans forward, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Imagine it, my lord. Rather than fighting a war to place one Targaryen on the throne, what if we united them? What if the blood of the dragon came home not as conquerors but as a family? For a long moment, Kevan considers the eunuch's words. Then he shakes his head. You're mad, Varys. Even if what you say is true, Jon Snow has taken the black. He's sworn sacred vows. Vows that could be set aside by royal decree, Varys replies, or by the simple fact that the realm has greater need of him elsewhere. The Night's Watch has served its purpose for thousands of years. But the true war is coming south, not from beyond the wall. And you would simply abandon Prince Aegon? I would give him what he truly deserves, Varys says with a slight smile. A chance to serve the realm in his own way, perhaps as Lord Protector or hand to his elder brother. The realm needs both of them, after all. Kevan stands again and moves to the window, staring out at the dark city below. After several minutes of silence, he turns back to face the spymaster. "Why tell me this?" he asks. "If you believe Jon Snow is the rightful king, why not simply kill me as you planned and proceed with this new scheme?" "Because," Varys says softly, "this plan requires subtlety, finesse, the kind of careful diplomacy that you have proven so capable of in recent months. Stabbing you in your solar and leaving crossbow bolts for others to find serves chaos. But bringing the dragons home in unity, that serves the realm." The two men regard each other in the candlelight. Finally, Kevan nods slowly. "What would you need from me?" "Time," Varys says simply. "A fortnight, perhaps 2. Continue your excellent work here. Keep the realm stable. Give no indication that anything has changed. Meanwhile, I will travel north to Castle Black and confirm what I believe to be true. And if Jon Snow refuses to believe you, if he chooses to honor his vows, then I will return to King's Landing and we will proceed with the original plan," Varys says. "Prince Aegon will have his war, and you." He leaves the sentence unfinished. Kevan draws a deep breath. "And if Jon Snow does believe you, then the realm will have its rightful king," Varys says with satisfaction, "and we will have avoided a great deal of unnecessary bloodshed." With that, the eunuch moves toward the door. He pauses with his hand on the latch and looks back at Kevan. "Lord Kevan," he says softly, "for what it is worth, I truly hope this path proves unnecessary. You have served the realm well." Then he is gone, leaving Kevan alone in the solar, with only the flickering candle for company. The Regent of the Seven Kingdoms sinks back into his chair and stares at the documents scattered across his desk. Everything he has worked for, everything he has built, suddenly seems fragile as spun glass. Outside, the Red Keep sleeps on, unaware that the fate of Westeros has just shifted in a single conversation. And somewhere in the shadows of the serpentine corridors, a spider begins weaving an entirely new web. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Chapter 2. The Journey North. 3 weeks after departing King's Landing, Varys's horse picks its way carefully along the icy track that leads to Castle Black. The journey north has been long and arduous, made more difficult by the eunuch's unfamiliarity with horseback travel. His soft hands, better suited to parchment and quills than reins and saddle, are raw with blisters beneath his leather gloves. The wall looms before him like a blue-white cliff that stretches beyond sight in either direction. 700 feet of ancient ice catches the pale morning sunlight and throws it back in brilliant, blinding flashes. Even from half a mile away, the massive barrier dominates the horizon with its impossible size and weight. Varys draws his horse to a halt and stares up at the wall in wonder. For all his years in King's Landing, for all his knowledge of the realm's secrets and mysteries, he has never seen anything quite like this monument to human determination and desperation. The stories say it was built to keep out the others, the legendary ice demons of the far north. But gazing upon its immensity, Varys thinks it looks more like a barrier built to keep the world itself at bay. Castle Black nestles against the wall's base, like a child sheltering against its mother's skirts. The ancient fortress is larger than Varys expected, with multiple towers and buildings connected by covered walkways and courtyards. Smoke rises from a dozen chimneys, and men in black move purposefully between the structures like ants tending their nest. The eunuch urges his horse forward down the final stretch of road. His breath steams in the cold air, and frost has begun to form on his eyebrows and the edges of his travelling cloak. The north's winter chill cuts through his layers of silk and wool with knife-edge precision. He is grateful for the warmth that awaits him within those stone walls. 2 rangers stand guard at Castle Black's main gate. They wear the black cloaks and mail of the Night's Watch, and their hands rest casually on the hilts of their swords. As Varys approaches, the younger guard steps forward with practiced authority. "Hold there," the ranger calls out. "State your name and business." Varys reins in his horse and offers his most disarming smile. "I am called Varys, and I come from King's Landing with urgent business for Lord Commander Snow." The guards exchange glances. Visitors from the capital are rare at Castle Black, particularly soft-looking men who travel alone on expensive horses. "What sort of business?" the older guard asks suspiciously. "The sort best discussed privately with your Lord Commander," Varys replies smoothly. "I carry word from the Iron Throne." The mention of royal authority shifts the guard's demeanor slightly. The younger ranger nods toward the gate. "Stable your horse in the yard," he says. "I'll escort you to the Lord Commander's solar." Varys dismounts with obvious relief, his legs stiff from weeks in the saddle. He follows the ranger through Castle Black's gates and into the central courtyard. Men in black pause in their tasks to watch the unlikely visitor pass. Some stare openly at his soft appearance and fine clothes, clearly wondering what business such a man could have at the wall. The ranger leads him through a maze of corridors and stairways, past armories and storerooms and common halls. The castle smells of wood smoke and cooking food, leather and steel, and the faint underlying scent of men living in close quarters. It is not unpleasant, exactly, but it reminds Varys powerfully that he is far from the perfumed halls of the Red Keep. "Lord Commander!" the ranger calls out as they reach a heavy wooden door. "You have a visitor from King's Landing." "Enter," comes a voice from within. The ranger pushes open the door and stands aside. Varys steps into the solar and gets his first look at Jon Snow. The young Lord Commander sits behind a simple wooden desk, studying what appears to be a supply ledger. He is 17 years old, but carries himself with the authority of someone much older. His face bears the long, serious features of House Stark, and his dark hair falls in loose waves around his shoulders. When he looks up, his grey eyes are sharp and measuring. "Lord Commander Snow," Varys says with a respectful bow. "I am Varys, Master of Whisperers to His Grace King Tommen. I have travelled far to speak with you." Jon sets down his quill and leans back in his chair. The calculating look in his grey eyes reminds Varys strongly of Ned Stark, though the boy has never known his supposed father's true nature. "Master Varys," Jon says carefully, "your reputation precedes you, though I confess I'm surprised to see you so far from King's Landing." "The realm's business takes me to many unexpected places," Varys replies smoothly. "May I sit?" "The journey north has been educational." Jon gestures to a simple wooden chair across from his desk. Varys settles himself with evident gratitude, his soft features showing the strain of weeks on the road. "What brings the spider to Castle Black?" Jon asks directly. "We rarely see anyone from court, and never anyone of your station." Varys studies the young man before him. Jon Snow appears much as he expected, serious, thoughtful, with the quiet strength that marks the best leaders. But there is something else in those grey eyes, a depth of experience that seems at odds with his 17 years. "I come with an offer," Varys says finally. "An opportunity to serve the realm in ways you have not yet imagined." "I already serve the realm," Jon replies firmly. "The Night's Watch guards all the kingdoms, not just one." "Indeed," Varys agrees. "And you have served admirably. Your election as Lord Commander at such a young age speaks to both your abilities and the trust your brothers place in you." Something flickers across Jon's face. Surprise, perhaps, that this southern stranger knows so much about his recent elevation to command. But, Varys continues, there are other ways to serve, other roles that might make better use of your particular talents. Jon's expression hardens slightly. I have taken sacred vows. I serve for life. As have many good men before you, Varys says gently. But circumstances change. The realm faces challenges that require different responses than those of the past. What sort of challenges? Varys leans forward in his chair. Tell me, Lord Commander, what do you know of the situation in King's Landing? Of the various claimants to the Iron Throne? Jon's grey eyes narrow, enough to know that the Night's Watch takes no part in the wars of the realm. We serve all kings, and no kings. A wise policy, Varys agrees. But what if I told you that one of those claimants had a stronger right than any other? What if that claimant could unite the realm instead of dividing it further? I would say that every man who calls himself king believes his claim is the strongest. Varys smiles at the response. The boy is careful, thoughtful, not easily swayed by pretty words or grand promises, good qualities in a king. True enough, he says. But this claimant's right comes not from conquest or political maneuvering, but from blood, from ancient lineage and prophecy. Jon shifts uncomfortably in his chair. The Night's Watch does not meddle in matters of succession, even when that succession might affect the safety of the realm, even when it might determine whether the Seven Kingdoms stand united against the threats that gather beyond the wall. For a moment, Jon's composure slips slightly. Varys catches the brief flicker of something, concern, perhaps, or recognition of a truth the young Lord Commander has not voiced. What threats? Jon asks quietly. The same threats your order was founded to guard against, Varys replies. The darkness that stirs in the far north, the ancient enemies that your brothers have whispered about, but not yet seen. Jon is silent for a long moment, his grey eyes studying Varys with new intensity. When he speaks again, his voice is carefully controlled. How could you know about such things? You serve in King's Landing, not at the wall. I serve the realm, Varys corrects gently. All of it. And the realm includes both the seat of kings and the places where ancient evils stir. My birds fly far and wide, Lord Commander. They see many things. Jon stands and moves to the narrow window that looks out onto the wall. The massive barrier of ice stretches away into the distance, its surface gleaming in the afternoon sun. Even if what you say is true, he says without turning around, I have sworn my life to the Watch. My vows are sacred. Your vows bind you to defend the realm, Varys says carefully. But what if the greatest service you could provide requires you to leave this place? What if your true duty lies not in guarding the wall, but in ensuring there is still a realm to guard? Jon turns from the window, his face troubled. You speak in riddles. I speak in possibilities, Varys replies. The realm stands at a crossroads. The choices made in the coming months will determine its fate for generations. You could play a part in shaping that future. As what? A sellsword? A political advisor? Jon's voice carries a note of scorn. I am a bastard born, Master Varys. Whatever grand plans you have in mind, they do not include men like me. Varys allows himself a small smile. What if I told you that your birth is not quite what you believe it to be? Jon goes very still. What do you mean? I mean that the truth of your parentage might surprise you, Varys says softly. That the man you call father may have been protecting a secret more precious than his own honor. The solar falls silent, except for the crackling of the fire in the hearth. Jon stares at the eunuch, his face a mask of carefully controlled emotion. "You're talking nonsense," he says finally. "Ned Stark was my father. He claimed me as his son." "He claimed you, yes," Varys agrees. "But consider this. Ned Stark was renowned throughout the realm for his honor and integrity. Yet he returned from Robert's rebellion with a bastard son, admitting to adultery after mere months of marriage to Catelyn Tully. Does that seem like the Ned Stark you knew?" Jon's jaw tightens. Men make mistakes. Some men, perhaps, but not Ned Stark, not about something so fundamental to his character. Varys rises from his chair and approaches the window. The wall looms beyond the glass, ancient and implacable. "Your father, and he was your father, in all the ways that matter, made a promise at the Tower of Joy," the eunuch says quietly. "A promise to a dying woman who feared for her child's safety. A promise that required him to sacrifice his own reputation to protect that child." Jon's breathing has become shallow, his grey eyes fixed on Varys with desperate intensity. "Who?" he whispers. "Who was she?" "That," Varys says with a gentle smile, "is a conversation for another time. First, you must decide whether you are willing to hear the truth, whether you are prepared to leave this place and discover who you truly are." Jon turns away, his hands gripping the window's stone frame. "The Night's Watch is my life. These men are my brothers." "And they always will be," Varys says. "But the realm has need of you elsewhere. There is another who shares your blood, another who could stand beside you in the trials to come." "Another?" "A queen across the narrow sea," Varys explains. "Young like yourself, powerful, the last known daughter of House Targaryen." Jon spins to face him. "Daenerys Targaryen." "Indeed. She rules in Meereen now, but her heart longs for home, for Westeros. Imagine what the two of you could accomplish together. Imagine how you could heal the realm's wounds and prepare it for the darkness that comes." For a long moment, Jon stares at the eunuch in silence. Then he moves to his desk and sinks into his chair, his face buried in his hands. "This is madness," he says quietly. "Even if what you suggest were true, I am sworn to the Night's Watch. My vows are binding until death." "Your vows bind you to serve the realm," Varys reminds him. "Consider carefully whether that service is best fulfilled here at the Wall or elsewhere in the kingdoms that need your protection." Jon looks up, his grey eyes haunted. "And if I refuse? If I choose to honor the vows I have already made?" Varys meets his gaze steadily. "Then I will respect your choice and speak no more of this matter. The realm will find another way forward." "And if I were to consider what you propose?" "Then you would travel with me to Essos," Varys says simply. "You would meet your aunt and learn the truth of your heritage. And together you would decide how best to serve the realm you both love." The solar falls silent again. Outside, the afternoon shadows are growing longer, and the wall's ice gleams like burnished silver in the fading light. Finally, Jon Snow, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch and bastard son of Ned Stark, looks up at the eunuch who has travelled so far to find him. "Give me until tomorrow to decide," he says quietly. Varys nods and moves toward the door. "Of course, my lord. Take all the time you need. The realm has waited this long for its king. It can wait a little longer." With that, he is gone, leaving Jon alone with the weight of impossible choices and the terrible possibility that everything he has believed about himself might be a lie. Chapter 3. The Bastard's Truth. The next morning dawns cold and grey at Castle Black. Jon Snow stands at his window, watching the early mist rise from the courtyard below. He has not slept. The night passed in a blur of questions without answers, doubts without resolution. Varys's words echo in his mind like a song he cannot forget. A soft knock at the door breaks his reverie. "Enter!" Jon calls out, though he already knows who it will be. Varys steps into the solar, looking remarkably refreshed despite his long journey north. The eunuch's soft features show concern as he takes in Jon's haggard appearance. "You look as though sleep eluded you, my lord," Varys observes gently. "It did." Jon turns from the window to face his visitor. "I've been thinking about what you said, about promises and secrets. And what conclusions have you reached?" Jon moves to his desk but does not sit. His grey eyes are bloodshot from the sleepless night, but they burn with desperate intensity. "Tell me the truth. All of it. If you want me to abandon everything I've sworn to protect, I need to know exactly why." Varys nods slowly. "Very well, but perhaps you should sit for this." "I'll stand." The eunuch settles himself in the chair across from the desk. For a moment, he studies Jon's face, as if memorizing it. When he speaks, his voice is softer than usual, almost gentle. "Your father, Ned Stark, was not your father by blood," Varys begins, "but he was your father in every way that mattered. The love he bore you was real. The protection he provided was real. Never doubt that." Jon's jaw tightens. "Then who was my father by blood?" "Prince Rhaegar Targaryen," Varys says simply. "The Dragon Prince, eldest son of the Mad King Aerys. And your mother was Lyanna Stark, Ned's beloved sister." The words hit Jon like a physical blow. He grips the edge of his desk to steady himself, his knuckles white with strain. "That's impossible," he whispers. "Rhaegar kidnapped Lyanna. He raped her." "He married her," Varys corrects quietly. "In secret, before the old gods in a ceremony witnessed by few. Their union was born of love, not violence. Robert's rebellion was built on a lie, Lord Snow. A lie that 3 kingdoms bled to uphold." Jon sinks into his chair, his face pale as winter snow. "You're saying my parents were married? That I'm not a bastard? You are the true-born son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark," Varys confirms, "which makes you heir to the Iron Throne, the rightful king of the 7 kingdoms." For a long moment, Jon says nothing. His grey eyes stare at nothing, processing this impossible revelation. When he finally speaks, his voice is barely audible. "Why did no one tell me?" "Because it would have meant your death," Varys explains. "Robert Baratheon spent 17 years hunting down every Targaryen he could find. If he had known that Ned Stark sheltered Rhaegar's son, he would have demanded your head. Ned chose to bear the shame of supposed adultery rather than see you die." Jon's hands tremble as he runs them through his dark hair. "The Tower of Joy. That's where this happened?" "Yes. Lyanna died giving birth to you, but not before making Ned promise to protect you, to raise you as his own son and keep your true identity secret. Only a handful of people knew the truth." "Who?" Jon asks desperately. "Who else knew?" Varys counts on his soft fingers. "Ned Stark, obviously. Howland Reed was present at the Tower of Joy. He may have known or guessed. Perhaps Benjen Stark suspected something, given the timing. But that is likely all. Ned took the secret to his grave." Jon stands abruptly and begins pacing the small solar. His movements are sharp, agitated. "This is madness. Even if what you say is true, I am sworn to the Night's Watch. My vows are sacred." "Your vows bound you to defend the realm," Varys reminds him. "But what if the greatest threat to the realm is not beyond the wall, but within it? What if the 7 kingdoms tear themselves apart in civil war, while the true king serves at the world's end. I'm no king, Jon says fiercely. Look at me. I have dark hair and grey eyes. I look like a Stark, not a Targaryen. You have your mother's colouring, Varys agrees, but you have your father's strength, his sense of duty, his willingness to sacrifice for others. The eunuch pauses. Tell me, have you ever noticed how easily you understand military strategy? How naturally command comes to you? How men follow you despite your youth? Jon stops pacing. That means nothing, doesn't it? You were elected Lord Commander at 17 years of age. Your brothers chose you over men with decades more experience. That speaks to something deeper than simple competence. It speaks to the Night's Watch being desperate, Jon says bitterly. It speaks to the dragon in your blood, Varys counters. Targaryens have always been natural leaders. It is their gift and their burden. Jon turns to face the window again, staring out at the wall. Even if I believed you, which I don't, what would you have me do? Abandon my post? Break sacred vows sworn before gods and men? I would have you consider that your true vows were sworn long before you took the black, Varys says quietly. The day you were born, you became heir to a throne and a responsibility to protect all the people of Westeros, not just those beyond the wall, but all of them. The Night's Watch protects everyone. The Night's Watch protects against one threat, Varys corrects. But the realm faces many threats. Civil war, foreign invasion, the breakdown of law and order, famine, disease. A king with the power to unite the 7 kingdoms could address all of these. Jon whirls around, his grey eyes blazing. And what of the others? What of the ancient enemies that gather in the far north? If I leave, who will stand against them? Your brothers will stand, as they always have. And when the time comes, when that threat becomes real, a united kingdom will be far better prepared to face it than 7 fractured realms bleeding themselves white in endless wars. For a moment, Jon considers this, then he shakes his head. You speak of things that may never come to pass. The others are legend, stories told to frighten children. Are they? Varys asks mildly. Have you not felt it yourself, Lord Snow? The change in the wind, the unnatural cold that seeps into your bones, the way the wildlings flee south as if running from some nameless terror? Jon goes very still. How could you know about that? Because my birds fly far and wide, and because the signs are there for those who know how to read them. Varys leans forward in his chair. The long night is coming again. But this time, the realm need not face it divided and weak. This time, it could face it with a king who understands the threat. A king who could unite the living against the dead. Stop calling me king, Jon says quietly. Would you prefer your grace? I would prefer Jon Snow. It's the only name I've ever known. Varys stands and moves to the window, gazing up at the wall's immensity. Names are powerful things, my lord. Jon Snow is the name of a bastard, bound by vows to the Night's Watch. But you are more than that name. You are the son of ice and fire, born to stand between the realm and the darkness. Jon slumps back into his chair, overwhelmed. Even if what you say is true, I know nothing of ruling. I'm a bastard from the north who's never been further south than Winterfell. You know how to lead men, Varys points out. You know how to make difficult decisions. You understand sacrifice and duty. These are the qualities that matter in a king. And Daenerys Targaryen, where does she fit into your grand plan? She is your aunt, Varys explains, the last known daughter of House Targaryen. Like you, she has spent her life believing herself alone in the world. Imagine what it would mean to her to discover that she has family, that the dragons need not die with her. Jon looks up sharply. Dragons? 3 of them, Varys confirms with a slight smile. Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion. Born of fire and magic in the red waste of Essos. They say dragons respond to Targaryen blood. Would you not be curious to test that claim? For the first time since the conversation began, Jon looks intrigued rather than overwhelmed. She truly has dragons. She does. And an army, and a burning desire to return home to Westeros. Together, you could accomplish what neither could achieve alone. You could heal the realm's wounds and prepare it for whatever darkness comes. Jon is quiet for a long time, his grey eyes distant. When he finally speaks, his voice is thoughtful rather than desperate. If I were to do this thing, if I were to leave with you, what would happen to Castle Black? To my brothers? They would elect a new Lord Commander, as they have done for thousands of years. The Watch would continue. Your absence would be regretted, but it would not be catastrophic. And my vows would be set aside by royal decree once you claim your throne, or perhaps they would be seen as having served their purpose once you accept your true duty. Jon stands and moves to a chest in the corner of the solar. From it, he withdraws a long object wrapped in oiled leather. He unwraps it carefully, revealing a bastard sword with a distinctive rippled blade. Longclaw, he says quietly. Lord Commander Mormont gave it to me. It's Valyrian steel. A fine blade, Varys observes, and fitting for a Targaryen king. Jon hefts the sword, feeling its perfect balance. If I do this, I'll need to tell my officers something. I can't simply vanish in the night. What will you tell them? That I've received word of a threat to the realm that requires my immediate attention, that I must travel south on urgent business for the Watch. Jon meets Varys's eyes. It wouldn't even be a lie. No, Varys agrees. It would not. Jon sheathes Longclaw and turns back to face the eunuch. When would we leave? Today, if you are willing. The sooner we depart, the sooner you can meet your aunt and learn the full truth of your heritage. Give me an hour to make arrangements, Jon says quietly. To say farewell to my brothers without telling them it may be forever. Varys nods and moves toward the door. I will prepare for our journey. And Lord Snow? Yes? Whatever else happens, whatever choices you make, remember that Ned Stark raised you well. The honor he taught you, the sense of duty, these are not burdens to be cast aside. They are gifts that will serve you as king every bit as much as they served you as Lord Commander. With that, Varys is gone, leaving Jon alone with the weight of his true identity and the terrible possibility that everything he has believed about himself was a lie designed to keep him alive. An hour later, 2 figures in heavy traveling cloaks ride out from Castle Black's gates. The guards watch them go with mild curiosity, unaware that they have just witnessed the departure of the rightful king of Westeros. Behind them, the wall stretches away into the distance, ancient and implacable, standing guard over secrets that may soon reshape the world. Jon Snow, or perhaps he should think of himself by another name for now, does not look back. His grey eyes are fixed on the road south, toward a destiny he never imagined and a family he has never known. In his mind, dragons soar and kingdoms bow, while somewhere in the distance, the wheels of fate begin to turn. The bastard of Winterfell rides toward his throne, and the realm will never be the same. Chapter 4. Across the narrow sea. The ship rocks gently beneath Jon's feet as he stands at the bow, watching the grey waters of the narrow sea stretch endlessly before them. 3 weeks have passed since they departed White Harbour, and the coastline of Westeros has long since vanished behind them. The merchant vessel, Summer's Dream, carries them eastward through waters that grow bluer and warmer with each passing day. Jon grips the rail with white knuckles, his grey eyes fixed on the horizon. The constant motion of the sea still unsettles him, though he has grown accustomed to it. More disturbing than the ship's movement is the constant churning in his mind as he struggles to accept what Varys has told him about his true heritage. "You look troubled, my lord," comes a soft voice behind him. Jon turns to find Varys approaching across the deck. The eunuch has fared better during their voyage than Jon expected, though his pale skin has taken on a greenish tinge during the rougher weather. "I feel like I'm sailing toward someone else's life," Jon says quietly. "Everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie." "Not a lie," Varys corrects gently. "A necessary protection. The love your father bore you was real. The lessons he taught you were real. You are still the same man, regardless of whose blood flows in your veins." Jon looks down at his hands gripping the rail. Strong hands, calloused from years of sword work and command. They look like Stark hands, not the pale, elegant fingers he imagines Targaryens possess. "I don't look like a Targaryen," he says, for perhaps the 100th time since leaving Westeros. "You look like your mother," Varys reminds him patiently. "Lyanna Stark was said to be one of the great beauties of her age. Dark hair, grey eyes, with the wild spirit of the North in her veins. You have her colouring and her strength." "And what of my father? What was Rhaegar Targaryen truly like?" Varys moves to stand beside him at the rail. Beautiful, by all accounts. Silver hair and violet eyes, with the bearing of a prince born. But more than that, he was learned, thoughtful, melancholy at times. They say he could move men to tears with his harp playing. Jon touches the sword at his side. "I've never touched a harp in my life." "Perhaps music was not the gift that passed to you, but leadership was. The ability to inspire loyalty in others, the willingness to sacrifice for the good of the many." Varys pauses. "Tell me, have you ever felt different, as if you were meant for something greater than the life you were living?" Jon considers this. "Sometimes," he admits. "At Castle Black, when I made difficult decisions, I felt like I was drawing on something deeper than training, something that came from within." "The dragon in your blood," Varys says with satisfaction. "Targaryens have always been natural rulers. It is part of their magic." "Magic?" Jon looks at the eunuch skeptically. "I'm no sorcerer. Not sorcery in the traditional sense, but the blood of old Valyria carries certain gifts, the ability to command dragons, for one." Jon's breath catches. "You truly believe dragons will accept me?" "I believe it is very likely," Varys says carefully. "Throughout history, dragons have bonded with those who carry the blood of the dragon lords. Your Aunt Daenerys is proof that the gift still runs strong in Targaryen veins." "Tell me about her dragons," Jon asks. "What are they like?" Varys's eyes take on a distant quality. "Magnificent creatures. Drogon is the largest. Black scales with red eyes and wing membranes. Fierce and proud like his namesake. Rhaegal has green and bronze colouring, named for your father. And Viserion is cream and gold, beautiful but no less deadly than his brothers." Jon tries to imagine such creatures, but his mind can barely grasp the concept of living dragons. "And they truly obey her?" "They are bonded to her, yes, though obey may be too strong a word. Dragons are not horses to be ridden at will. They are intelligent, proud creatures who choose their riders as much as they are chosen. The bond between dragon and rider is profound." What if they reject me? Jon asks quietly. What if whatever gift allows Targaryens to command dragons passed me by? Then you will still be the rightful king of Westeros, Varys says simply. Dragons are a powerful advantage, but they are not the only source of strength. You have proven yourself capable of leading men without them. The ship crests a particularly large wave, and Jon grips the rail tighter as spray washes over the bow. When the vessel settles, he turns back to Varys. Tell me about Daenerys herself. What manner of woman is she? Young, like yourself. She has seen much hardship in her life, exile, abuse, the loss of her husband and child. But she has emerged from those trials stronger, more determined. She freed the slaves of Slaver's Bay and rules in Meereen now as their queen. Jon frowns. Rules how? Is she a conqueror? She is a liberator, Varys explains. She came to Meereen with her dragons and unsullied army, broke the chains of slavery, and chose to remain to ensure the freed slaves could build new lives. It has not been easy. The former masters resist her at every turn. And you said she married? To Hisdar zo Lorak, one of the Meereenese nobles, a political marriage designed to bring peace between the former slaves and the former masters. She sacrificed her personal desires for the good of her people. Jon nods slowly. This sounds like something he can understand. Duty before personal happiness. Does she love him? I do not believe so, but she recognizes the necessity of compromise in ruling, a lesson many monarchs never learn. They stand in comfortable silence for a while, watching the endless blue waters roll past. Finally, Jon speaks again. What will she think of me? A bastard from the north with no experience of courts or kingdoms? She will think you are family, Varys says warmly. Do not underestimate what that will mean to her. She has spent her entire life believing herself the last of her line. To discover she has a nephew, living family who shares her blood, will be a gift beyond measure. And if she doesn't believe I am who you say I am, then the dragons will prove it, Varys replies with confidence. If they accept you as they have accepted her, there will be no doubt about your heritage. Jon looks out at the sea, imagining what lies ahead. How much further to Meereen? Another week, perhaps 2, depending on the winds. We will sail into Slaver's Bay and dock at the Great Pyramid that serves as Daenerys' seat of power. Will she receive us? A eunuch and a bastard arriving unannounced? Varys smiles. She will receive the Master of Whisperers who brings news from Westeros. And once she understands what news I carry, she will receive her nephew with all the honor due to family. That evening, Jon stands at the same rail under a canopy of brilliant stars. The night air is warm, warmer than any he has known, even in the height of summer at Winterfell. Everything about this journey feels alien to him. The climate, the endless water, the knowledge of what awaits at their destination. Varys joins him again, carrying 2 cups of wine from the ship's stores. You seem troubled still, the eunuch observes, offering Jon a cup. Jon accepts the wine, but does not drink. I keep thinking about my brothers at Castle Black, about the vows I swore. Was I right to abandon them? You didn't abandon them, Varys says firmly. You made a choice to serve the realm in a different way. The Night's Watch will continue its mission, but the 7 kingdoms need unity now more than ever. Why? Jon asks. What threats do you see that require a Targaryen king? Varys is quiet for a long moment. There are stirrings beyond the wall. Reports from my little birds speak of strange things in the far north. And in King's Landing, the Game of Thrones grows ever more dangerous. Without strong leadership, the realm will tear itself apart. Jon finally takes a sip of wine. It is sweet and strong, unlike anything from Westeros. And you believe Daenerys and I can provide that leadership? I believe you complement each other perfectly, Varys replies. She has experience in ruling, dragons, and a powerful army. You have the stronger claim, knowledge of Westeros, and the loyalty of the North. Together, you could accomplish what neither could achieve alone. The loyalty of the North? Jon laughs bitterly. They think I'm Ned Stark's bastard who abandoned the Night's Watch. Why would they follow me? Because you are Lyanna Stark's son, Varys says simply, and because when they see you command dragons and hear the truth of your parentage, they will remember that their kings have Stark blood as well as dragon blood. Jon stares into his wine cup. If we succeed in claiming the throne, what then? How do we rule a realm that has been at war with itself for years? Carefully, Varys admits, with justice tempered by mercy, with strength balanced by wisdom. It will not be easy, but it is necessary work. And the others, the threats beyond the wall, will be faced by a united kingdom with dragons in the sky, not a fractured realm bleeding itself white in endless wars. Jon drains his cup and sets it aside. I hope you're right, because if you're wrong, I've abandoned my sworn brothers for nothing. I am not wrong, Varys says, with quiet confidence. The blood of the dragon runs true in your veins, Jon Snow. Soon you will see proof of it with your own eyes. 3 days later, Jon gets his first glimpse of Slaver's Bay. The water here is a brilliant blue-green, and the air shimmers with heat that makes him sweat beneath his traveling clothes. In the distance, he can see the great pyramid of Meereen rising from the haze, like something from a fevered dream. There, Varys says, pointing toward the distant city. Your aunt's seat of power. Your new life begins when we dock. Jon grips the rail one final time, his grey eyes fixed on the pyramid ahead. Somewhere in that distant city, a queen sits with dragons at her side. His aunt, his family, his destiny. The ship sails on through waters that grow warmer with each league, carrying the hidden prince toward a meeting that will reshape the world. Behind them, Westeros sleeps in ignorance of the storm that is about to break upon its shores. Ahead, in the great pyramid of Meereen, 3 dragons stir restlessly in their chains, as if sensing the approach of blood that calls to blood. Jon Snow, bastard of Winterfell and rightful king of Westeros, sails toward his throne without knowing that he carries in his veins the fire that will wake dragons from stone and unite ice and fire beneath a single crown. Chapter 5. The Dragon Queen's City. The harbour of Meereen sprawls before them like something from a dream. Jon stands at the ship's rail, staring in wonder at the greatest city he has ever seen. Massive stepped pyramids rise from the cityscape like stone mountains, their peaks crowned with bronze harpies that gleam in the afternoon sun. The Great Pyramid dominates them all, its apex hundreds of feet above the surrounding buildings. Magnificent, is it not? Varys says, joining Jon at the rail as their ship glides between the forest of masts that crowd Meereen's harbour. Jon can only nod. The ships anchored here come from a dozen different nations. Volantis war galleys with their distinctive black hulls, Braavosi merchant vessels with purple sails, and strange craft from the far reaches of the summer sea. The very air smells different here, spices and incense, sweat and exotic foods, and underneath it all the dusty heat of a land that has never known winter. The Queen rules from the Great Pyramid, Varys explains, pointing toward the massive structure that dominates the skyline. It was built by the masters who once held this city, but now it serves as the seat of the woman who broke their chains. Their ship docks at a stone quay, busy with stevedores and merchants. Most are dark-skinned men and women with the look of former slaves about them. They move with the careful dignity of people still growing accustomed to freedom. But John also sees lighter-skinned figures in the shadows, watching the proceedings with barely concealed hostility. Former masters, Varys observes quietly, following Jon's gaze. They have not accepted their change in circumstances gracefully. Jon shoulders his pack and follows Varys down the gangplank. The moment his feet touch the stones of Meereen, he feels the weight of countless eyes upon him. A pale-skinned young man with dark hair and grey eyes is an unusual sight in Slaver's Bay, and whispers follow them as they make their way through the crowds. "Word of our arrival will reach the pyramid within the hour," Varys murmurs. "My little birds are efficient, but so are others." They push through the bustling market streets that lead away from the harbour. Jon has never seen such diversity of faces and tongues. Former slaves from across Essos mingle with Meereenese freedmen, while merchants from Volantis and Korth hawk their wares in a dozen different languages. The heat is oppressive, and sweat runs freely down Jon's back beneath his northern clothes. "The Queen has transformed this place," Varys explains as they walk. "When she arrived, Meereen was built on the backs of hundreds of thousands of slaves. Now those same people walk free, learning to read and write, starting businesses, raising families as citizens rather than property." Jon watches a group of children playing in a fountain, their laughter bright in the warm air. And the former masters? Some have adapted, others resist. It is complicated. Varys guides them toward a side street that climbs toward the pyramids. That is why Queen Daenerys married Hisdar zo Lorak, to bridge the divide between the old order and the new. A political marriage? Very much so. The Queen sacrificed her personal happiness to bring peace to her city. Varys pauses. It is the sort of choice that speaks well of a ruler's character. As they climb higher through the city's tiers, Jon begins to hear something that makes his heart race. A sound unlike anything in his experience. It starts as a low rumble, almost below the range of hearing, then builds to a roar that seems to shake the very stones beneath their feet. "Dragons," Varys says with satisfaction, watching Jon's reaction. The roar comes again, closer this time, and Jon looks up to see a shadow pass overhead. For a moment, his mind cannot process what his eyes are showing him. A creature larger than any bird, with wings that blot out the sun, and a serpentine neck ending in a head, armed with teeth like swords. "Drogon," Varys says reverently, the largest of the three, black scales and red eyes, fierce as his namesake. The dragon circles the Great Pyramid, once before disappearing behind its peak. Jon realizes he has stopped breathing. "They are real," he whispers. "Very real," Varys confirms. "And if your blood truly runs with the fire of old Valyria, they will know it." They continue their ascent through the city. The streets here are wider, paved with colored stones that form intricate patterns. The pyramids of the lesser masters rise around them, some occupied by former slaves who claimed them after their owners fled, others standing empty and defiant. "Where will we stay?" Jon asks. "I have arrangements," Varys replies smoothly. "An old friend keeps rooms for travelers who prefer discretion." They turn into a narrow alley between two smaller pyramids and stop before an unremarkable wooden door. Varys knocks in a specific pattern, and after a moment, the door opens to reveal a thin man with olive skin and knowing eyes. "Spider," the man says in accented common tongue. "It has been too long." "Indeed it has, my friend. May we enter?" The man, clearly one of Varys's informants, steps aside and ushers them into a courtyard shaded by date palms. The space is cool and quiet, a welcome relief from the heat and noise of the streets. "This is Lord Snow," Varys says carefully. "He travels with me on business of the highest importance." The informant's eyes study Jon with sudden interest. Northern, by his look. What brings a son of Winterfell to Meereen? "Family business," Jon says simply. The informant nods as if this explains everything. In a city where the Dragon Queen rules, perhaps it does. "You will want to see her," the man says to Varys. "The Queen. But it will not be simple. She has married the noble Hisdar, and he controls access to the throne room during formal audiences." "When is the next audience?" Varys asks. "Tomorrow at midday. But Hisdar will want to know who requests an audience and why. Tell him that Varys of King's Landing brings word from Westeros," the eunuch says. "Word that the Queen will very much want to hear." The informant glances between Varys and Jon, clearly curious but wise enough not to ask direct questions. "I will send word. But the noble Hisdar may ask for considerations." "He may ask," Varys agrees. "Whether he receives them depends on his cooperation." That evening, Jon stands on the flat roof of their lodgings, looking out over the great city spread below. Torches and braziers light the night, creating a constellation of flickering points across the urban landscape. The Great Pyramid dominates everything, its peak crowned with flames that burn bright against the star-filled sky. "She is up there," Varys says, joining him on the roof. "Your aunt. The last person in the world who shares your blood." "How do you think she will react?" Jon asks. "When you tell her who I am?" "With joy, I hope, but also with caution. She has learned to be careful about who she trusts." A distant roar echoes across the city, and Jon sees another shadow pass between the stars. This one is smaller than Drogon, with a different silhouette. "Rhaegal," Varys says, following his gaze. "Green and bronze, named for your father. Perhaps he will be the one to accept you first." Jon watches the dragon disappear into the night. What if they don't? What if the dragons reject me entirely? "Then you will still be a king," Varys says firmly. "Dragons are not the only source of power. You have proven yourself capable of leadership without them. But they would make everything easier. They would make everything more complicated," Varys corrects. "Dragons are not tools to be used. They are partners to be respected. The bond between dragon and rider is deeper than that between horse and horseman. It changes you." Jon thinks about this as he watches the city below. "How so?" "Power changes all men," Varys explains. "But the power of dragons, that changes you in ways both wonderful and terrible. You become something more than human, but also something less. The Dragon Queen has learned this truth. Soon, perhaps, you will as well." They stand in comfortable silence for a while, watching the lights of Meereen twinkle in the darkness. Finally, Jon speaks. "Tomorrow, then." "Tomorrow," Varys agrees. "Tomorrow you meet your family, and the realm gains its rightful king." Down in the Great Pyramid, unknown to the two men on the distant rooftop, a young queen with silver-gold hair and violet eyes sits in her private chambers, reading reports from her master of whisperers. Word has already reached her of the northern visitor who arrived with the former spymaster of Westeros. Her hands tremble slightly as she sets the parchment aside. For 16 years, Daenerys Targaryen has believed herself the last of her line. Tomorrow, she may discover that the dragons need not die with her after all. In the depths of the pyramid, 3 dragons stir restlessly in their chains. Drogon raises his great black head and sniffs the air, catching a scent that speaks to something deep in his ancient blood. Rhaegal unfurls his green wings and calls softly to his brothers. Viserion's cream-colored scales shimmer in the torchlight as he, too, senses the change that is coming. The blood of the dragon has come home to the dragons. And tomorrow, the world will begin to change in ways that no one can predict. Jon Snow stands on a rooftop in Meereen, unaware that beneath his feet, creatures born of fire and magic are awakening to the call of kinship. His grey eyes reflect the distant flames atop the Great Pyramid, and for a moment, just a moment, those flames seem to burn in his gaze as well. The bastard of Winterfell sleeps fitfully his last night as Jon Snow. When he wakes, he will begin the journey toward becoming the king he was born to be. Chapter 6. Fire and Blood. The throne room of the Great Pyramid is unlike anything Jon has ever seen. Massive pillars carved with twisting dragons support a vaulted ceiling, painted with scenes of old Valyria's glory. Sunlight streams through colored glass windows, casting pools of red and gold across the polished marble floor. The air is heavy with incense and the barely contained power of ancient magic. At the far end of the chamber, raised on a dais of black stone, sits the Queen of Meereen. Daenerys Targaryen is smaller than Jon expected, barely 16 and delicate of build, but she radiates authority that fills the vast space. Her silver-gold hair falls in elaborate braids woven with bells that chime softly when she moves. Her violet eyes are sharp and calculating as they study the two men who approach her throne. Beside her stands a man Jon assumes must be Hizdahr Zolorak, her husband. He is tall and lean, with the olive skin and sharp features of Giscari nobility. His dark eyes watch the proceedings with obvious suspicion. "Your Grace," Varys says, sweeping into a deep bow as they reach the foot of the dais. "I am Varys of King's Landing, formerly Master of Whisperers to the Iron Throne. I come bearing word from Westeros." Daenerys leans forward slightly, her violet eyes fixed on the eunuch. "Lord Varys, your reputation precedes you, though I confess surprise at finding you so far from the capital. The realm's business takes me to many unexpected places, Your Grace, and the business I bring today is of the utmost importance." "Indeed?" Hizdahr speaks for the first time, his accented voice carrying a note of skepticism. What business could a former spy master have with the Queen of Meereen? Varys smiles his soft smile, but does not answer directly. Instead, he gestures toward Jon. "Your Grace, may I present Lord Jon Snow of Winterfell?" Jon steps forward and offers a respectful bow. As he straightens, he finds himself looking directly into Daenerys' violet eyes for the first time. There is something in her gaze, a flicker of recognition, perhaps, or simply curiosity about this dark-haired stranger from the north. "Jon Snow," she repeats thoughtfully. "I have heard that name. Were you not Lord Commander of the Night's Watch?" "I was, Your Grace," Jon replies carefully, "until circumstances required me to serve the realm in a different capacity." What circumstances could possibly draw a sworn brother of the Night's Watch away from his vows? Hizdahr asks sharply. Before Jon can answer, a sound echoes through the throne room that makes every person present go very still. It starts as a low rumble, like distant thunder, then builds to a roar that seems to shake the very stones of the pyramid. Daenerys' eyes widen in surprise. "The dragons," she breathes. "They have been restless since yesterday. But this—" The roar comes again, closer this time, and Jon can hear the sound of massive wings beating against the air. Through the colored windows, shadows pass, not one dragon, but 3, circling the pyramid with increasing agitation. "This is most unusual," Hizdahr says, rising from his seat beside the throne. "The dragons rarely show such excitement during formal audiences. Daenerys stands as well, her violet eyes moving between Jon and the windows, where the dragon shadows continue to wheel overhead. "Lord Snow," she says quietly, "perhaps you could explain why your presence seems to have disturbed my children." Jon feels the weight of every gaze in the room. Guards, courtiers, and servants all stare at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to fear. He looks to Varys, who nods almost imperceptibly. "The explanation, Your Grace, lies in a secret that has been kept for 17 years, Varys says smoothly. A secret about Lord Snow's true parentage. His parentage? Daenerys descends from the dais, her bells chiming softly with each step. "Speak plainly, Lord Varys. What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that the man before you is not Ned Stark's bastard son," Varys replies, "but rather the true-born child of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen and Lady Lyanna Stark." The words fall into the throne room like stones into still water, sending ripples of shock and disbelief through the assembled court. Hizdahr takes a step backward, his face pale. Daenerys goes very still, her violet eyes fixed on Jon with sudden intensity. "That is impossible," she whispers. "Is it?" Varys asks gently. "Look at him, Your Grace. Look closely. Yes, he has his mother's colouring, the dark hair and grey eyes of the Starks. But see the way he carries himself, the natural authority, the way your dragons react to his presence." As if summoned by Varys's words, another roar shakes the pyramid. This time it is answered by two others, creating a symphony of draconic calls that echo across Meereen. "Rhaegar had no surviving children," Hizdahr says desperately. "The mountain killed them both during the sack of King's Landing. Prince Aegon and Princess Rhaenys died, yes," Varys agrees, "but they were the children of Rhaegar's first wife, Elia Martell. This young man is the son of his second wife, a marriage performed in secret before the old gods of the north." Daenerys circles Jon slowly, studying his face as if seeing it for the first time. "The eyes are wrong," she says finally. "Targaryens have violet eyes." "Not all of them," Varys corrects. "Alyssa Targaryen had mismatched eyes. Prince Baelor Breakspear had dark eyes from his Dornish mother, and Lady Lyanna's blood runs strong in her son." "Even if what you say is true," Daenerys says, though her voice wavers slightly, "how could you possibly know? Who else was present at this supposed secret marriage?" "Few," Varys admits. "The ceremony was performed at the Tower of Joy in Dorne. Ned Stark was present when Lady Lyanna died giving birth. He made a promise to protect the child, to raise him as his own bastard, rather than reveal his true heritage." Jon finds his voice at last. "My father, Ned Stark, he never told me. I lived my entire life believing I was his bastard son." Daenerys turns to face him fully. "And what do you believe now?" Jon meets her violet gaze steadily. "I believe that everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie designed to keep me alive." The dragons roar again, and this time the sound is accompanied by a tremendous crash from somewhere above. Dust rains down from the ceiling as something large and heavy lands on the pyramid's peak. "Drogon," Daenerys breathes. "He has never acted this way during court." "Perhaps," Varys suggests quietly, "he recognizes the blood of his rider's family." Before anyone can respond, the great doors of the throne room burst open. Guards scramble aside as 3 dragons squeeze through the massive opening. Drogon leads them, his black scales gleaming and his red eyes fixed on Jon with unmistakable intelligence. Behind him come Rhaegal and Viserion, their green bronze and cream gold scales catching the coloured light from the windows. The court erupts in chaos. Courtiers flee toward the walls, Guards reach for weapons they dare not draw, and Hisdar stumbles backward toward the throne. But Daenerys stands perfectly still, watching as her 3 children approach the man she has just learned might be her nephew. The dragons move slowly, deliberately, their great heads lowered as they study Jon with ancient eyes. Jon, for his part, stands frozen as 3 creatures of legend surround him. He can feel the heat radiating from their scales, smell the sulfur on their breath, hear the low rumbles they make deep in their throats. Then Rhaegal, the green bronze dragon named for Jon's father, does something that makes every person in the room gasp in amazement. The great beast lowers his massive head and gently nudges Jon's shoulder with his snout. "Impossible," Hisdar whispers. But Viserion follows his brother's example, pressing his cream-colored muzzle against Jon's other side. And finally, Drogon himself, largest and fiercest of the 3, bows his great black head before the young man from the north. Jon reaches out with trembling hands and touches Drogon's scales. They are warm as sun-baked stone, and beneath his fingers he can feel the slow, powerful rhythm of the dragon's heartbeat. For a moment, there is perfect silence in the throne room, except for the soft sound of dragon breathing. "7 hells," Jon whispers. Daenerys steps forward slowly, her violet eyes wide with wonder. "They have never done that with anyone but me. Never. Because," Varys says softly, "they recognize him as you do. As family." The dragons pull back from Jon, but they do not leave. Instead, they settle around him like faithful hounds, their eyes alert and protective. Drogon positions himself directly behind Jon, while Rhaegal and Viserion flank him on either side. "If this is true," Daenerys says, her voice barely audible, "if you are truly my brother's son, then you are not alone," Jon finishes quietly. "And neither am I." For a moment, the 2 young Targaryens simply stare at each other across the marble floor of the throne room. Silver gold hair and violet eyes facing dark hair and grey eyes, fire and ice meeting for the first time. "The prophecy," Daenerys breathes suddenly, "the prince that was promised," "is gender-neutral in High Valyrian," Varys confirms. "It could refer to either of you, or perhaps both of you." "Born amidst salt and smoke," Daenerys recites, "to wake dragons from stone." She looks around at her 3 children, then back at Jon. "They have never responded to anyone as they respond to us. If you truly carry the blood of the dragon, then perhaps," Jon says carefully, "we were meant to find each other." The implications of this moment hang heavy in the air. 2 lost Targaryens, the last of their line, standing together with dragons at their feet, and a prophecy hanging over their heads like a crown. "Your Grace," Hisdar says, his voice sharp with concern. "Surely you cannot believe—" "Silence," Daenerys commands without looking away from Jon. Her voice carries the authority of a queen and the wonder of a young woman who has just discovered she has family. She takes another step toward Jon, and the dragons part to allow her passage. When she stands directly before him, she reaches out and touches his face gently, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingertips. "You have Rhaegar's nobility," she says softly. "I can see it now. The way you stand, the way you speak. But your mother's strength as well." "I never knew them," Jon says quietly. "I never knew any of it." "Neither did I," Daenerys replies. "I was born after they died. I have spent my entire life thinking I was the last of our house." "What does this mean?" Jon asks. "For both of us?" Daenerys looks around the throne room, at the dragons, at Varys, at her husband, and court watching this unprecedented scene unfold. "It means," she says finally, her voice growing stronger, that House Targaryen is not dead. It means we have choices to make, decisions that will affect not just us, but all of Westeros. The realm has need of both of you, Varys says carefully. Together you could accomplish what neither could achieve alone. Daenerys nods slowly, her violet eyes still fixed on Jon's grey ones. Yes, she says quietly. Together. Around them, 3 dragons settle more comfortably on the marble floor, as if they, too, understand that something fundamental has changed. The last Targaryens have found each other, and the world will never be the same. In the great throne room of Meereen, with dragons as witnesses and prophecy as guide, fire and ice prepare to unite under a single banner. The Game of Thrones has gained 2 players who could change all the rules, and in the distance, the bells of Meereen begin to toll, as if the very city knows that history has just turned on its axis. Chapter 7. The Dragon Queen kneels. The throne room has been cleared of all but the most essential witnesses. Guards stand at attention along the walls, while a handful of Daenerys' most trusted advisors wait in tense silence near the great doors. The dragons remain, their massive forms creating a protective circle around the 2 young Targaryens who stand facing each other in the center of the vast chamber. Daenerys paces slowly across the marble floor, her silver-gold hair catching the light from the stained-glass windows. Her violet eyes are distant, calculating, as she processes the implications of everything she has learned. Jon watches her carefully, his grey eyes reflecting both understanding and uncertainty. 17 years, Daenerys says finally, breaking the heavy silence. For 17 years, I have believed myself the last of my line, the sole heir to the Iron Throne. As did I, Jon replies quietly, though I believed I had no claim at all. She stops pacing and turns to face him directly. But you do have a claim. If what Lord Varys says is true, if you are truly Rhaegar's son, then your claim supersedes mine. Does it? Jon asks. You are the daughter of the king. I am the son of a prince. A prince who was heir to that king, Daenerys counters. Under the laws of succession, a son comes before a daughter, a brother before a sister. Her voice is steady, but Jon can hear the pain beneath her words. If Rhaegar had lived to take the throne, his sons would have inherited before his siblings. Hizdahr steps forward from where he has been standing near the throne. Your Grace, surely you cannot seriously consider— Silence, Daenerys commands without looking at her husband. This is a matter for House Targaryen to decide. Varys moves closer, his soft voice carefully respectful. Your Grace, the laws of Westeros have traditionally favored male inheritance, but House Targaryen has not always followed those traditions. The Dance of Dragons, Daenerys says thoughtfully, when Rhaenyra and Aegon fought for the throne. Indeed, both had valid claims under different interpretations of the law. The realm bled for years because the succession was unclear. Varys pauses. But this situation need not end in bloodshed. Daenerys turns to study Jon's face, as if seeing him anew. You look nothing like a Targaryen. Dark hair, grey eyes. You could be any northern lord's son. I have my mother's colouring, Jon says simply. But apparently my father's other gifts. As if summoned by his words, Rhaegal lifts his great green head and fixes Jon with one enormous eye. The dragon makes a low sound deep in his throat, somewhere between a purr and a growl. Drogon and Viserion stir as well, their attention focused entirely on the young man from the north. They have never behaved this way with anyone but me, Daenerys observes. In all my years with them, through all our trials in Essos, they have acknowledged no other rider. Perhaps they sense something I do not yet understand myself, Jon says. Daenerys approaches him slowly, stopping just beyond arm's reach. The prophecy speaks of a prince who was promised, but in High Valyrian, the word is gender-neutral. It could refer to a prince or a princess. Or both, Varys suggests quietly. Both, Daenerys repeats, considering this. Born amidst salt and smoke, to wake dragons from stone. She looks around at her 3 children. I was born during a storm on Dragonstone, and my dragons were born from stone eggs in Khal Drogo's funeral pyre. And I was born at the Tower of Joy in Dawn, Jon says. My mother died bringing me into the world, and my true identity has been hidden like a sleeping dragon for 17 years. For a moment, they simply stare at each other across the marble floor. Then Daenerys asks the question that has been hanging in the air since Varys first spoke Jon's true name. What do you want? She asks quietly. If you are who Lord Varys says you are, the Iron Throne is yours by right. Do you intend to claim it? Jon is quiet for a long time before answering. A week ago, I was Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, sworn to take no crown and hold no lands. The idea of being king was as foreign to me as flying. And now? Now I find myself in a throne room in Essos, speaking with a queen who commands dragons, learning that everything I believed about myself was a lie. Jon meets her violet gaze steadily. I never wanted to rule. I still don't. But if I am truly Rhaegar's son, if the realm has need of me, you would accept the burden, Daenerys finishes, as you have accepted yours. Daenerys nods slowly. I was 13 when I first dreamed of the Iron Throne, 15 when I began planning my return to Westeros. For 3 years I have conquered cities and freed slaves, all in service to my goal of reclaiming my family's crown. And now? She looks around the throne room, at her dragons, at her husband, at the court that has gathered to witness this unprecedented moment. Now I must decide what matters more, my personal ambitions, or the good of the realm. Drogon rises from where he has been resting and approaches Daenerys, lowering his massive black head to nuzzle her shoulder gently. She reaches up to stroke his scales, drawing comfort from the familiar warmth. I have been alone for so long, she says softly, the last Targaryen, the last dragon rider, the weight of our entire house resting on my shoulders. You are not alone now, Jon says. Whatever else happens, you are not alone. She looks at him again, and for a moment her royal composure slips, revealing the young woman beneath the crown. If I acknowledge your claim, if I step aside, what happens to me, to my dragons, to the freedmen of Meereen? Nothing happens to you, Jon says firmly. You are my family, my aunt, my blood. Whatever throne I might claim, there will always be a place for you at my side. As what? A princess kept in comfortable exile? As my partner, Jon says without hesitation, as my most trusted advisor, as the queen mother to whatever heirs I might have. He pauses. The realm needs both of us. You have experience in ruling, knowledge of Essos, and the loyalty of freed slaves across 3 cities. I have knowledge of Westeros and, perhaps, the acceptance of the Northern Lords. Varys steps forward carefully. If I may, Your Grace, the realm has been torn apart by war, precisely because claimants have fought each other rather than working together. House Targaryen is strongest when united. Daenerys turns to study the dragons again. All 3 are watching her intently, as if they too understand the weight of the decision she must make. The dragons will follow you, she says finally. I can see it in how they look at you. Rhaegal especially. He was always the most independent, the most difficult to command. But with you, they seem calmer, Jon observes. More settled. Because they sense what I am beginning to understand, Daenerys says. You are not here to take something from me. You are here to complete something that was always meant to be shared. She takes a deep breath and steps back from him. When she speaks again, her voice carries the authority of a queen making a royal pronouncement. Lords and ladies of Meereen, she calls out, her clear voice carrying to every corner of the throne room. You have witnessed something unprecedented today. The blood of old Valyria has been reunited after 17 years of separation. The assembled court watches in tense silence as Daenerys continues. You have seen the dragons themselves acknowledge Jon Snow as their kin. You have heard the truth of his parentage revealed. And now you will witness something that has never been seen in the history of Westeros. She turns to face Jon directly, her violet eyes meeting his grey ones. Jon Snow, son of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen and Lady Lyanna Stark, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, I acknowledge your superior claim to the crown of our ancestors. The words ring out across the throne room like bell tolls. Hizdar's face goes pale, while Varys watches with satisfaction. The guards and courtiers shift nervously, uncertain of what they are witnessing. Then, slowly and deliberately, Daenerys Targaryen, Queen of Meereen and Mother of Dragons, sinks to one knee before Jon Snow. I pledge my loyalty to the rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms, she says, her voice strong and clear. My dragons, my armies, my experience, and my life are yours to command. The silence that follows is absolute. In all the long history of the Targaryen dynasty, no reigning queen has ever voluntarily yielded her crown to another. The dragons themselves seem to sense the moment's importance. Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion all lower their great heads in what looks remarkably like bows. Jon stares down at his aunt in shock. For a moment, he seems frozen by the magnitude of what has just occurred. Then he steps forward and gently takes her hands, helping her to rise. I accept your fealty, he says formally, but not as a subject kneeling before a throne, as family standing together. When Daenerys rises, there are tears in her violet eyes, but she is smiling. Together, she agrees. Together, Jon confirms. Two dragons, united as one. Around them, the court begins to process what they have just witnessed. The impossible has occurred. The Targaryen claimants have chosen unity over conflict, family over ambition. What now? Daenerys asks quietly. Now we plan our return to Westeros, Jon says, not as conquerors but as family coming home. Varys steps forward with a deep bow. Your graces, he corrects himself. The realm awaits its dragons. In the great throne room of Meereen, with 3 dragons as witnesses, and the assembled court looking on in wonder, the last Targaryens have chosen their path. The fire and ice of their bloodline will return to Westeros, not as enemies, but as allies. The Game of Thrones has fundamentally changed. For the first time in living memory, the dragons are united, and Westeros will never be the same. Chapter 8. The Alliance Forged. The private council chamber in the Great Pyramid is far smaller than the throne room, but no less magnificent. Ancient Giscari tapestries line the walls, while braziers filled with sweetgrass burn in each corner. Jon sits across from Daenerys at a polished ebony table, maps of Westeros and Essos spread between them. Varys occupies a chair to one side, his soft hands folded as he watches the 2 young rulers plan their campaign. The logistics alone will be staggering, Daenerys says, studying a map of the narrow sea. Moving 3 dragons, 8,000 unsullied, and whatever Dothraki remain loyal to me across the water. not to mention provisions, siege equipment, and ships enough to carry them all. Jon traces the coastline of Westeros with his finger. Where would we land? Dragonstone? The ancestral seat of House Targaryen, Varys agrees. Symbolic value aside, it provides an excellent staging ground for an assault on King's Landing. The harbour can accommodate a large fleet, and the castle itself is nearly impregnable. Who holds it now? Daenerys asks. Stannis Baratheon's forces abandoned it months ago to march north, Varys explains. It sits empty, waiting for whoever is bold enough to claim it. Jon studies the map more closely. What of the current situation in King's Landing? Who rules there now? Varys's expression grows thoughtful. King Tommen sits the Iron Throne, though at 9 years of age he rules in name only. His mother, Cersei Lannister, serves as Queen Mother and wields considerable influence, though she has recently faced difficulties with the faith militant. Tommen Baratheon, Daenerys repeats. Robert's son? Ostensibly, Varys says carefully, though those with eyes to see have long suspected the truth of his parentage. Golden hair, green eyes, born of an incestuous union between Cersei and her twin brother Jaime. Jon looks up sharply. You're saying he's not Robert's heir at all? I am saying that the boy who sits the Iron Throne has no more legitimate claim to it than any other bastard in the 7 kingdoms, Varys confirms, less perhaps given the circumstances of his birth. Then our claim is not just stronger by blood, Daenerys realizes. It is the only legitimate claim. Precisely, Your Grace. Tommen is a usurper, whether he knows it or not. The realm suffers under the rule of those who have no right to command it. Jon leans back in his chair, processing this information. What of the other claimants? Stannis Baratheon. Currently besieging Winterfell, according to my little birds. A dangerous man, but one whose cause grows more desperate by the day. He has burned too many bridges, alienated too many potential allies with his religious fervour. And the North? Jon asks quietly. How do they fare under Bolton rule? Varys's expression softens slightly. Not well, my lord. Rose Bolton rules from Winterfell through fear and brutality. The northern houses remember the Starks, and they chafe under the Dreadfort's yoke. Your presence there could spark a rebellion that would sweep the Boltons from power. Daenerys watches Jon's face carefully as he absorbs this news. You're thinking of your family's seat. I'm thinking of my people, Jon corrects. The North has suffered enough under false kings and cruel lords. Then we are in agreement, Daenerys says firmly. When we return to Westeros, one of our first priorities must be liberating the North. Our return, Jon repeats. You're certain about this? Leaving Meereen? Daenerys is quiet for a long moment, her violet eyes distant. I have spent 3 years building something here. Breaking chains, freeing slaves, trying to forge a better world from the ashes of the old. It has been difficult work. And now you would abandon it? I would entrust it to others, she corrects. The freedmen of Meereen no longer need a foreign queen to protect them. They have learned to protect themselves. Varys clears his throat gently. If I may, Your Grace, there is also the matter of your husband to consider. Daenerys's expression tightens slightly. Hizdahr will understand. Our marriage was a political arrangement designed to bring peace between the former masters and former slaves. With my departure, he can rule as he always wanted, without interference from Targaryen dragons. You think he'll let you leave peacefully? Jon asks. He has little choice in the matter, Daenerys replies with a slight smile. The dragons answer to me, not to him. As if summoned by her words, A distant roar echoes through the pyramid. Jon looks toward the window, where he can see Drogon's massive form circling the peak of the structure. "They've been restless since yesterday," Daenerys observes. "Since you arrived. I think they sense change coming." "What will you do about the Dothraki?" Jon asks. Varys mentioned they might not all remain loyal. "The Khalasars have scattered since Khal Drogo's death," Daenerys explains. "Some follow me still, but others have returned to the Great Grass Sea. Those who remain loyal will come with us to Westeros. Those who don't," she shrugs. "The Dothraki respect strength above all else. When they see dragons in the sky above King's Landing, they will remember why they once followed Daenerys Stormborn." Varys spreads out another map, this one showing the coastline around King's Landing in detail. "If we land at Dragonstone and consolidate our forces there, we can control the Blackwater Bay, cut off trade to the capital, strangle the city slowly rather than assault it directly." "A siege?" Jon studies the map. "How long would that take?" "Months, perhaps, but with dragons, we have options that conventional besiegers lack. Drogon alone could clear the battlements of the Red Keep in minutes, and kill countless innocent people in the process," Jon says firmly. "If we're to rule these people, we cannot begin by burning them alive." Daenerys looks at him with approval. "Spoken like a true king. Yes, the dragons are weapons of last resort. We use them to inspire awe and submission, not to indiscriminately slaughter our future subjects. The realm has seen too much war," Jon agrees. "Too much bloodshed. If we can take the throne with minimal violence, then we will have succeeded where Robert's rebellion failed," Varys finishes. "We will have won not just a crown, but the love of the people." "What of allies within Westeros?" Daenerys asks. "Which houses might support our cause?" Varys counts on his soft fingers. "The North will rally to Jon Snow once his parentage is revealed and proven. Dorne has no love for the Lannisters after what happened to Elia Martell and her children. The Reach might be persuaded if we promise them favorable terms. As for the others, they'll follow strength," Jon says pragmatically. "When they see dragons in the sky and realize we represent the only legitimate claim to the throne, they'll bend the knee. Some will resist," Daenerys warns, "the Lannisters especially. They have too much to lose to surrender peacefully." "Then they will face the consequences of their treason," Jon replies. "But we give them the chance to choose first." "Mercy before justice," Daenerys nods approvingly. "Another sign of a true king." They spend the next several hours poring over maps and lists, discussing logistics and strategy. Ships must be gathered, supplies organized, messages sent to potential allies. The complexities of moving an army across the narrow sea become apparent as they delve into the details. 6 months, Varys estimates finally. Perhaps 8, to gather the necessary ships, organize the forces, and prepare for departure. "Too long," Jon says immediately. "Every day we delay, Tommen's hold on the throne grows stronger. The longer we wait, the more entrenched his supporters become. And the more Meereen suffers from uncertainty about its future," Daenerys adds. "We cannot leave the city in limbo indefinitely." 3 months, then, Varys concedes. "It will mean taking greater risks, cutting certain corners in our preparations. But it can be done." "Then it will be done," Jon says firmly. "The realm has waited long enough for its rightful rulers." As the afternoon wears on, word of the Dragon Queen's planned departure begins to spread through the Great Pyramid and into the city beyond. By evening, crowds have gathered in the plaza before the pyramid's base. Former slaves mix with former masters, freedmen with Giscari nobles, all united in their concern for Meereen's future. From the pyramid's balcony, Jon and Daenerys can see the masses below. Torches flicker like stars in the darkness, and the low murmur of thousands of voices rises to reach them. "They're afraid," Daenerys observes quietly. "Afraid of what will happen when I'm gone." "Can you blame them?" Jon asks. "You liberated them. You've been their protector for 3 years. Of course they fear your departure." "Which is why I must address them," Daenerys decides. "They deserve to hear the truth from my own lips, not as rumor spreading through the markets." "What will you tell them?" "That their liberation was not a gift from a foreign queen, but something they earned for themselves. That they no longer need dragons to protect them because they have learned to be strong on their own." Jon watches the crowd below. "And do you believe that?" "I have to," Daenerys says simply. "Because the alternative is staying here forever, while Westeros burns under false kings and usurpers." She turns to face him, her violet eyes reflecting the torchlight from the plaza. "Are you ready for this, Jon Snow? Are you ready to be king?" Jon looks out over the city of Meereen, then beyond to where he knows Westeros lies across the dark waters. Somewhere beyond the horizon, his homeland waits under the rule of a bastard king whose claim rests on lies. The North suffers under Bolton cruelty. The realm bleeds from endless wars. "I don't know if anyone can be ready for such a burden," he says finally. "But yes, if this is my duty, if this is what the realm requires, then I am ready." "And I am ready to help you bear that burden," Daenerys promises. "Together we will give Westeros the peace it has forgotten." Below them, 3 dragons rise from the pyramid's depths and take flight over the city. Their roars echo across Meereen like a promise and a farewell. The time of preparation has begun. Soon, very soon, the dragons will fly west across the narrow sea to reclaim the throne of their fathers. The alliance is forged. The plans are laid. All that remains is the execution of their grand design. In 3 months' time, Westeros will see its rightful rulers return, and the 7 kingdoms will never be the same. Chapter 9. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, the small council chamber in the Red Keep feels smaller than usual, with tension filling every corner. Cersei Lannister sits at the head of the long table, her golden hair catching the light from the tall windows that overlook Blackwater Bay. Her green eyes are cold and calculating as she studies the parchment that has just arrived by Raven from Essos. "Dragons," she says finally, her voice carefully controlled. The report speaks of dragons seen over Slaver's Bay. Kevan Lannister adjusts his position in his chair, his weathered face grim. At 56 years of age, the regent has seen enough of war and politics to recognize a serious threat when he encounters one. 3 of them, according to this. Black, green, and cream. The same descriptions we've heard before regarding Daenerys Targaryen's creatures. "But there's more," Jaime says from his position near the window. The Lord Commander of the Kingsguard turns from his study of the harbour, his golden hair dishevelled and his green eyes troubled. His right hand is missing, the stump hidden beneath a golden prosthetic that gleams in the afternoon sun. The Raven also brings word of northern visitors to Meereen, a eunuch and a young man with dark hair. Cersei's eyes narrow. "Varys." "Almost certainly," Kevan agrees. "The description fits. But who is his companion?" "Does it matter?" Cersei snaps, rising from her chair to pace behind the table. Varys disappeared from King's Landing months ago. Now he appears in Meereen with the Dragon Queen, and suddenly her dragons are more active than they've been since she conquered the city. "It matters very much," Kevan says firmly. "If Varys is advising Daenerys Targaryen, if he's convinced her to turn her attention westward..." Then we face invasion by the last Targaryen claimant, supported by dragons and backed by the most dangerous spy master in the known world, Jaime finishes. Yes, uncle, it matters. The door to the chamber opens, and young King Tommen enters with his usual hesitant gait. At 9 years of age, he still looks more like a boy playing at being king than an actual ruler. His golden hair is perfectly combed, his small crown sits slightly askew on his head, and his green eyes dart nervously between the adults who technically serve him. "Mother," he says quietly, approaching Cersei's chair. "Lord Kevin, Ser Jaime, I heard raised voices. Is something wrong?" Cersei's expression softens slightly as she looks at her youngest son. "Nothing that concerns you, sweetling. We're simply discussing matters of state." "But I am the king," Tommen says, with the stubborn dignity that sometimes surfaces despite his youth. "Matters of state are my responsibility." Kevin and Jaime exchange glances. The boy has grown more assertive since his mother's imprisonment and subsequent release, though he still defers to adult authority in most matters. "Very well," Kevin says gently. "Your Grace, we have received troubling reports from across the Narrow Sea. It appears that Daenerys Targaryen may be preparing to press her claim to the Iron Throne." Tommen's face goes pale. "The Dragon Queen? But I thought she was content ruling in Essos." "So did we all," Jaime says. "But circumstances change, and if she does decide to cross the Narrow Sea—" "She has dragons," Tommen whispers. "Real dragons." "3 of them," Cersei confirms, returning to her seat beside her son. "But dragons can be killed, sweetling. They are not invincible." "How do you kill a dragon?" Tommen asks, his young voice trembling slightly. "With great difficulty," Kevin admits, "but it has been done before. The dragon pit stands empty for a reason." Cersei shoots her uncle a sharp look. "Enough. You're frightening the king." "The king should be frightened," Jaime says bluntly. "If Daenerys Targaryen comes west with 3 dragons and an army, this city will burn unless we're prepared." "And how do you propose we prepare?" Cersei demands. "The royal fleet is a shadow of what it once was. The royal treasury is nearly empty, thanks to my father's wars. Half the noble houses in the realm question Tommen's legitimacy, and the other half are too exhausted from fighting to be reliable allies." "We do what House Lannister has always done," Kevin says firmly. "We adapt. We survive. We find advantages where others see only obstacles." "Speak plainly, uncle." Kevin leans forward, his hands clasped before him on the table. "Daenerys Targaryen may have dragons, but she's still a foreign invader. A young woman who has spent her entire life in exile, who knows nothing of Westeros beyond stories and songs. We use that against her. How? We paint her as what she is, a stranger seeking to conquer lands she has never seen, to rule people she has never known. We remind the lords of Westeros that she is the Mad King's daughter, that Targaryen madness runs in her blood." Jaime nods slowly. "And we prepare the city's defenses, scorpions on every tower, wildfire caches in strategic locations, make King's Landing too costly to take, even with dragons." "Wildfire?" Tommen's voice is small and frightened. "Only as a last resort," Cersei says quickly, though her eyes show interest in Jaime's suggestion. "We will not let some foreign pretender take what belongs to our family." "It belongs to the king," Kevin corrects firmly. "Tommen is the rightful ruler of the 7 kingdoms." "Of course," Cersei agrees, though her tone suggests she considers the distinction meaningless. "And we will defend his crown against all threats." A knock at the chamber door interrupts the conversation. A maester enters, bowing deeply before approaching the table. "Your Grace, my lords." "My lady," he says formally. More ravens have arrived. Reports from merchants in Pentos and Tyrosh. They speak of unusual activity in Slaver's Bay. "What sort of activity?" Kevin asks. "Ships gathering in Meereen's harbour. Foreign sellswords arriving by the hundred. And—" The Maester hesitates. "Dothraki horsemen riding toward the city." The silence that follows is heavy with implication. Finally, Jaime speaks. "She's gathering an invasion fleet." "How long?" Cersei demands. "How long before she could sail west?" "Impossible to say with certainty," the Maester replies. "But if the reports are accurate, if she truly is preparing for war, months perhaps, no more than a year." Tommen looks around the table at the adults who control his kingdom. "What do we do?" "We prepare," Kevin says simply. "We send ravens to every lord in the 7 kingdoms, reminding them of their oaths of loyalty. We call up the Royal Navy, such as it is. We fortify the city and train the gold cloaks for siege warfare. And we pray," Cersei adds quietly, "we pray that the gods protect the rightful king from his enemies." "What of allies?" Jaime asks. "The Tyrells." "Margaery is still imprisoned," Kevin reminds him. "Until her trial concludes, House Tyrell's loyalty remains complicated." "Then we resolve her trial quickly," Cersei says, "one way or another." "And the other houses?" "The Freys will support us out of necessity. They have too much blood on their hands to risk a Targaryen restoration. The Boltons as well, for similar reasons." Kevin counts on his fingers. "House Frey holds the Riverlands, House Bolton the north. If we can secure the reach through the Tyrells, that still leaves Dorne," Jaime points out, "and Dorne has reason to hate us." "Dorne has reason to hate all Targaryens as well," Cersei counters. "Rhaegar dishonoured Elia Martell. The dragons abandoned Dorne when Aerys fell. They may prefer the stability of Tommen's rule to the uncertainty of another dragon queen." "Perhaps," Kevin says, though his tone suggests doubt. "But we cannot count on Dornish support. We must assume we stand alone against whatever force Daenerys Targaryen brings to our shores." Tommen shifts in his chair, looking very young and very frightened. "Will we win? If she comes with dragons?" For a moment, none of the adults answer. Then Kevin reaches across the table and puts his hand gently on the boy's arm. "We will do everything in our power to protect you, Your Grace. Your crown, your kingdom, your life. We will defend them all." "But will we win?" Tommen presses. "We will adapt," Kevin repeats. "House Lannister always adapts." As the afternoon wears on and more ravens arrive with reports from across the narrow sea, one thing becomes increasingly clear. The Game of Thrones is about to change dramatically. In Meereen, dragons stir and armies gather. In King's Landing, a boy king sits on a throne built by dragonfire and wonders if he will live to see his 10th name day. The war that many have long anticipated is finally coming. And when it arrives, it will be unlike anything Westeros has seen since the days of Aegon the Conqueror. In the Red Keep, Cersei Lannister stares out at Blackwater Bay and remembers another time when foreign ships appeared on those waters. She was younger then, more naive. She thought love and beauty could protect her from the harsh realities of power. She knows better now. When Daenerys Targaryen comes, Cersei will be ready. She has lost too much, her father, her eldest son, her dignity, to lose anything more. The lioness prepares for the dragon's arrival, and the 7 kingdoms hold their breath, waiting to see which apex predator will prove stronger when fire meets gold. Winter is coming to Westeros, but first will come the dragons, and with them, a reckoning 20 years in the making. Chapter 10. The dragons come west. The harbour of Meereen has never seen such a fleet. Hundreds of ships crowd the waters. War galleys from Volantis, merchant vessels seized from across Slava's Bay, and sleek Lycian pirates flying new banners. The unsullied march in perfect formation onto transport ships, their bronze spears gleaming in the morning sun. Dothraki horsemen lead their mounts up ramps onto horse transports, their curved araks jingling with each step. From the peak of the Great Pyramid, Jon Snow watches the massive preparations below. 3 months of planning and gathering have led to this moment. The largest invasion fleet assembled since Aegon the Conqueror will soon sail west across the narrow sea. "Are you ready?" Daenerys asks, approaching from behind. Jon turns to face her, noting how different she looks in her riding leathers. Gone is the elaborate Giscari gown of a queen. Instead, she wears practical leather and mail designed for dragon riding. Her silver-gold hair is braided back in the Dothraki style, and her violet eyes burn with anticipation. "As ready as anyone can be for their first time on Dragonback," Jon replies. Below them, 3 dragons rest on the pyramid's broad terraces. Drogon sprawls across the largest platform, his black scales gleaming like polished obsidian. His red eyes are alert and intelligent as he watches the fleet preparations. Viserion occupies a smaller terrace, his cream and gold scales beautiful in the sunlight. And on the terrace closest to where Jon stands, Rhaegal waits. The green and bronze dragon is magnificent. Smaller than Drogon, but still massive beyond Jon's previous comprehension. Named for his father, Prince Rhaegar, Rhaegal has responded to Jon more strongly than his siblings. Even now, the dragon's great head turns toward Jon, and their eyes meet across the stone platform. "He knows you," Daenerys observes. "I've never seen Rhaegal so calm with anyone but me." "I can feel something," Jon admits, "like a warmth in my blood when I look at him." "The bond," Daenerys explains. "It's different for every dragon and rider. With Drogon, I feel his fierce independence, his need to be free. But with Rhaegal," she studies Jon's face, "with Rhaegal you may find something closer to partnership." Varys appears at the pyramid's entrance, slightly out of breath from the climb. "Your Graces, the fleet masters report ready to depart. The ships are loaded, the men are aboard, and the winds favor a swift crossing." "What word from the narrow sea?" Jon asks. "Our scouts report clear waters. No sign of hostile vessels between here and Dragonstone." Varys pauses. "Though there is word from Essos that may interest you." "Speak," Daenerys commands. "Tyrion Lannister has been seen in the company of a young man with silver hair who claims to be Aegon Targaryen. They travel with the Golden Company toward the Stormlands." Jon and Daenerys exchange glances. "Aegon lives?" Daenerys asks. "If the reports are true, yes. Rhaegar's son, with Ilya Martell, seeks to reclaim his father's throne through conquest rather than diplomacy." Varys's expression is carefully neutral. "He has not waited for your return to Westeros." "Then we may face 2 wars instead of 1, Jon says grimly. "One against the Lannisters, another against our own blood." "Perhaps," Daenerys says. "Or perhaps Aegon will prove more reasonable than his supporters. If he truly is Rhaegar's son, he is your brother. Family should not fight family." "Tell that to every civil war in Targaryen history," Jon replies. "But you're right. We cannot know his intentions until we meet him. For now, we focus on the task at hand," Varys says. "The fleet awaits your command to depart." Daenerys nods and begins walking toward the terrace where Drogon waits. Then it is time to fly home. Jon follows her down the stone steps to where Rhaegal rests. The dragon's great head rises as Jon approaches, and for a moment the two simply study each other. Then, slowly, Rhaegal lowers his massive skull until it nearly touches the stone platform. "He's offering," Daenerys says with wonder. "I've never seen him do that with anyone." Jon reaches out with a trembling hand and touches Rhaegal's snout. The scales are warm and smooth as polished metal. Beneath his palm, he can feel the slow, powerful rhythm of the dragon's breathing. "Easy," Jon murmurs, though he's not sure if he's speaking to Rhaegal or himself. The dragon makes a low, rumbling sound deep in his throat, somewhere between a purr and a growl. Then he shifts position, lowering his wing to create a natural ramp up to his neck. "He's inviting you to mount," Daenerys explains. "The bond is stronger than I thought possible." Jon takes a deep breath and walks up the dragon's extended wing. Rhaegal's scales provide excellent grip, and within moments Jon finds himself seated in the hollow between the dragon's neck and shoulders. The position feels surprisingly natural, as if he was born to sit astride a creature of legend. "Hold tight to the spines," Daenerys calls out, as she mounts Drogon with practiced ease. "And remember, you're not controlling him. You're suggesting direction and trusting him to carry you safely." Rhaegal rises beneath Jon with fluid grace, powerful muscles bunching and releasing as the dragon prepares for flight. Jon grips the horn-like spines that run along Rhaegal's neck, his heart hammering with excitement and terror in equal measure. "Ready!" Daenerys shouts across the distance between the two dragons. Jon nods, not trusting his voice. Drogon launches himself from the terrace first, his massive wings catching the air with thunderous beats. Daenerys and her dragon rise swiftly, circling the pyramid once before heading out over the harbour. Then Rhaegal follows, and Jon's world explodes into sensation. The dragon's takeoff is like being shot from a catapult. One moment Jon sits on solid stone, the next he's rising into the sky with incredible speed. The wind tears at his hair and clothes, and his stomach lurches as Rhaegal banks sharply to follow Drogon's path. But after the initial shock passes, Jon discovers something extraordinary. Riding a dragon is like nothing he has ever experienced. The sensation of flight, of soaring high above the earth, with nothing but air between him and the ground hundreds of feet below, is both terrifying and exhilarating beyond description. Rhaegal's flight is smooth and powerful. Each wing beat carries them higher and faster, until Meereen spreads out below them like a child's toy. Jon can see the entire fleet from this height. Hundreds of ships arranged in precise formations, ready to follow their dragons across the narrow sea. Daenerys and Drogon fly alongside them, and Jon can see her laughing with pure joy as she experiences the freedom of flight. She catches his eye and shouts something, but the wind steals her words away. They circle the fleet once, and Jon hears the cheers rising from every ship. Thousands of unsullied Dothraki and freedmen watch their rulers soar overhead on creatures of legend. The sound is like distant thunder rolling across the water. Then Daenerys points west, toward the setting sun, and both dragons bank in that direction. The crossing to Westeros has begun. For 3 days they fly over endless blue waters. The fleet follows below, a moving constellation of white sails spread across the narrow sea. Jon learns to communicate with Rhaegal through touch and instinct rather than words. The dragon seems to understand his wishes almost before Jon forms them in his mind. At night, they land on the largest ship in the fleet, a massive Volantine war galley reinforced specifically to carry dragons. The crew gives them respectful distance as the great beasts settle onto the specially constructed platform. "How do you feel?" Daenerys asks on the second evening as they share a simple meal on the ship's deck. "Different," Jon admits. like something that was sleeping inside me has awakened. The dragon dreams, she says knowingly. I've had them since I was a child. Dreams of flying, of fire, of ancient Valyria before the doom. I dreamed of ice and snow, Jon says, of the wall, of winter coming from the north. But now you dream of fire as well. Both, Jon confirms. Ice and fire together, as if they were always meant to be joined. On the morning of the fourth day, they see the coastline of Westeros rising from the dawn mist. Dragonstone appears first, a dark mountain rising from the sea like a fortress of black stone. The island's ancient castle clings to the rocky slopes, its towers and walls carved into the shape of dragons. Home, Daenerys breathes, though she has never seen Dragonstone before. For Jon, the sight of Westeros brings a different emotion. This is not the north, not the lands of his childhood, but it is still his homeland. And now he returns not as Ned Stark's bastard, but as a Targaryen prince with dragons at his command. The fleet begins deploying around Dragonstone's harbours as Jon and Daenerys soar overhead. The island appears deserted. No banners fly from the castle walls, no smoke rises from the chimneys. Stannis Baratheon's forces abandoned it long ago to march north. Rhaegal and Drogon land on the castle's highest tower, and Jon dismounts on legs that shake slightly from the long flight. From this vantage point, he can see the entire Blackwater Bay stretching away toward the mainland. Somewhere beyond the horizon lies King's Landing. "What now?" he asks. "Now we send word to every corner of Westeros," Daenerys says, her violet eyes fixed on the distant mainland. "Let them know that the dragons have returned. Let them know that the rightful heirs of Aegon the Conqueror have come home to reclaim their birthright." Varys joins them on the tower, having climbed up from the ship that brought him to shore. "The ravens are ready, your graces. Messages prepared for every major house, every lord who might support your cause." "And for those who will not?" Jon asks. "They will have their chance to choose," Daenerys says firmly. "We offer terms to all who bend the knee willingly. But those who stand with usurpers and kinslayers—" She looks up at Drogon, who spreads his wings wide above them. "They will learn why Aegon's enemies called him the Dragon." As evening falls over Dragonstone, ravens begin departing the castle's rookery. Black wings carry word across the Seven Kingdoms that the Targaryen restoration has begun. In the great houses of Westeros, lords will soon read messages that will force them to choose between old loyalties and new realities. The dragons have come home, and the realm will never be the same. Jon Snow stands on the battlements of Dragonstone, watching Rhaegal soar through the sunset sky above the narrow sea. For 17 years, he believed himself a bastard with no claim to anything. Now he is a prince of the blood, a dragon rider, a claimant to the Iron Throne. The boy who left Castle Black 3 months ago is gone forever. In his place stands a king in all but name, ready to lead his aunt and their dragons in a war that will determine the fate of Westeros for generations to come. The Game of Thrones has a new player, and this one comes with fire and blood. Chapter 11. The Realm Divided. The Great Hall of Dragonstone echoes with the sound of ravens departing and arriving in equal measure. Jon stands before a massive table covered with maps of Westeros, studying the reports that stream in from across the Seven Kingdoms. Messages arrive hourly now, bringing word of how the great houses respond to news of the Targaryen restoration. "Storm's End has declared for Aegon," Daenerys says, setting down a parchment bearing the Baratheon stag. "As have several houses in the Stormlands. It seems your brother has moved quickly to secure his position." Jon looks up from the map, his grey eyes troubled. Half-brother, he corrects, and it appears he's chosen conquest over diplomacy. Can you blame him? Varys asks from his position near the great hearth. He has spent his life in exile, believing himself the rightful heir. When opportunity presented itself, he took it. The question is whether he'll prove reasonable when we meet, Daenerys says. Targaryens have not always been known for their flexibility when it comes to sharing power. We'll find out soon enough, Jon replies. What word from the other regions? Varys consults his own collection of messages. Dorne remains uncommitted, though Prince Doran has agreed to receive envoys. The Reach wavers. Some houses support Tommen, others wait to see which way the wind blows. The Riverlands are chaos, as always. And the North? Jon asks quietly. The North is where things become complicated. Varys spreads out a detailed map of the northern kingdoms. Stannis Baratheon has taken several holdfasts and currently besieges Winterfell. The Boltons control the castle itself, but their hold grows tenuous with each passing day. Jon studies the positions marked on the map. When will Stannis learn of my situation? If he has not already, then very soon. My little birds in the north are efficient, and news of dragons tends to travel quickly. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles to the north, King Stannis Baratheon sits in his command tent outside the walls of Winterfell. The siege has dragged on for weeks, and winter's grip grows stronger with each passing day. His forces suffer from cold and dwindling supplies, while the Boltons remain safely behind Winterfell's ancient walls. The king is 36 years of age, but looks older, his face gaunt from the rigors of campaign, and his hair thinning from years of stress and conflict. He grinds his teeth as he studies maps of the castle's defences, seeking some weakness that might grant him victory. "Your Grace," Sir Davos Seaworth says, entering the tent with a scroll clutched in his weathered hands. A raven from the south. The seal. I've never seen its like. Stannis looks up, his jaw tight with irritation. From whom? That's just it, Your Grace. The message claims to be from Dragonstone. Davos hesitates. From someone calling themselves the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Another pretender? Stannis takes the scroll and breaks the unfamiliar seal. As he reads, his face grows pale, then flushed with anger. This is madness. What does it say? It claims that Jon Snow isn't Ned Stark's bastard, but the true-born son of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, that he has joined with Daenerys Targaryen, and they have landed at Dragonstone with dragons and an army. Stannis crushes the parchment in his fist. Dragons! Davos is quiet for a long moment. Is it possible, Your Grace? Could Jon Snow truly be he is Ned Stark's bastard? Stannis says firmly. This is some trick, some scheme to weaken our resolve. Dragons have been dead for over a century. But even as he speaks, Stannis remembers the red comet that burned across the sky years ago, the reports from across the narrow sea of impossible things happening in the wake of chaos. And he remembers Jon Snow himself, the boy's bearing, his natural authority, the way men followed him despite his bastard birth. Send ravens to our remaining supporters, Stannis commands finally. Tell them that false claimants multiply like flies on carrion, but that I am the rightful king by law and blood. I will not be deterred by tales of dragons and pretenders. And if the tales prove true, Stannis grinds his teeth harder, then we will burn them all. Far to the south, in the Vale of Arryn, a young woman who calls herself Elaine Stone sits in the solar of the Eyrie, embroidering a sampler by the light of tall windows. At 14 years of age, she appears to be nothing more than Lord Petyr Baelish's natural daughter, a bastard girl learning the arts of nobility. But Sansa Stark has not forgotten who she truly is, despite the auburn dye that darkens her hair, and the lies she tells daily to maintain her disguise. When Lord Baelish enters the solar with a scroll in his hand and excitement in his eyes, she looks up with carefully schooled calm. "Elaine," he says, his voice warm but his smile sharp. "I have news from the world below. News that may interest you greatly." "What sort of news, father?" she asks, maintaining the fiction that has kept her alive. "Word from Dragonstone. It seems the Targaryen restoration has begun." Baelish settles into a chair across from her. Daenerys Targaryen has landed with dragons and an army, seeking to reclaim her family's throne. Sansa's needle pauses for just a moment before continuing its careful work. Dragons? Surely that's just stories? Perhaps. But there's more. Baelish leans forward, studying her face carefully. She claims to have an ally, a young man who has revealed himself to be not Ned Stark's bastard son, but the child of Prince Rhaegar and Lady Lyanna. The needle stops entirely. Sansa looks up, her blue eyes wide. Jon? So it would seem. Jon Snow, as he was known, has supposedly joined the Dragon Queen as a fellow claimant to the throne. Sansa sets down her embroidery with trembling hands. Is it true? Could Jon truly be a Targaryen prince, the rightful heir to the Iron Throne? Baelish shrugs. Stranger things have happened, and if it is true, then the game has changed dramatically. What does it mean? For us, I mean. Baelish stands and moves to the window, looking out over the Vale's mountain peaks. It means that your bastard half-brother may soon be in a position to reclaim everything the Starks have lost. Winterfell, the North, justice for your family. And revenge? Sansa asks quietly. Perhaps, if he proves victorious, if the dragons are real. Baelish turns back to her. Tell me, my dear, if Jon Snow truly is a Targaryen prince, what would that make you? Sansa considers this. His sister. Still, even if we don't share the same father. His sister, the last true-born daughter of House Stark, someone who might have a role to play in the restoration of the old order. Baelish's eyes gleam with calculation. Someone whose support might prove very valuable to a newly crowned king. Back on Dragonstone, Jon paces the castle's ancient throne room, reading report after report of the realm's response to their return. The carved dragon throne sits empty behind him. Neither he nor Daenerys has claimed it yet, preferring to wait until they actually hold the Iron Throne. The responses are mixed, he says to Daenerys, who sits at a table sorting through messages. Some houses declare immediately for us, others for Tommen. Still others wait to see who proves strongest. That's to be expected, she replies. No one wants to choose the losing side in a war between dragons and lions. And now we have Aegon to consider as well. 3 separate claimants to the throne, each with armies and supporters. 4, Varys corrects from his corner. Don't forget Stannis Baratheon. He still claims the crown by right of Robert's succession. 4 claimants? Jon agrees grimly. The realm hasn't seen chaos like this since the Dance of Dragons. The difference, Daenerys says firmly, is that we have actual dragons. Not just the name, but the creatures themselves. That changes everything. A new raven arrives, bearing the direwolf of House Stark. Jon breaks the seal quickly, hoping for word from the north. But the message is not from Winterfell or any of the great houses. It's from a smaller castle, signed by a minor lord whose name Jon barely recognizes. What is it? Daenerys asks, seeing his expression change. Word from the north, Lord Serwyn of Serwyn Castle. He says," Jon reads the message again. "He says that if I am truly the son of Lyanna Stark, then the North remembers, and the North will answer." "One lord," Varys observes, "but perhaps others will follow." "Perhaps," Jon agrees. "But first we need to deal with the situation here. Tommen holds King's Landing. Aegon holds Storm's End. Stannis besieges Winterfell. And we hold Dragonstone." "A strong position," Daenerys says. "We control the sea approaches to the capital, and we have dragons. But we need allies on the mainland." "The Reach," Jon says, studying the map again. "If we can bring House Tyrell to our side, we gain the largest army in Westeros and control of the realm's food supply." "And Dorne?" Daenerys asks. "They have no love for Lannisters or Baratheons. Perhaps they can be persuaded to support the restoration of House Targaryen." "Perhaps. But we're asking them to support the children of the man who abandoned their princess for a Stark girl." "We're asking them to support justice," Daenerys corrects, "and the overthrow of those who murdered children in their beds." Jon nods, then looks up as another raven arrives. This one bears the golden rose of House Tyrell. He reads quickly, then sets the message aside with satisfaction. "Good news?" Daenerys asks. "Lord Mace Tyrell requests a meeting. He wants to discuss terms before choosing sides." "That's promising. And Dorne?" Another raven, this one bearing a red sun pierced by a golden spear. Jon reads and smiles slightly. "Prince Doran also wishes to meet. It seems the great houses want to see our dragons for themselves before committing to anything." "Then we give them what they want," Daenerys says, rising from her chair. "We show them that the age of dragons has returned to Westeros." As evening falls over Dragonstone, 3 dragons take to the sky above the ancient castle. Their roars echo across Blackwater Bay, carrying to the mainland and beyond. In King's Landing, people stop in the streets to stare at the distant shapes silhouetted against the setting sun. In castles across the Crown Lands, lords who thought dragons were mere legend begin to reconsider their loyalties. The realm fractures along new lines as houses choose between multiple claimants. Some follow tradition and support the sitting king. Others rally to Stannis' claim of legal succession. Still others declare for the young man with silver hair who calls himself Aegon, and a growing number look to Dragonstone, where the last Targaryens have returned with fire and blood. The Game of Thrones has become a war of 4 kings. But only one side has dragons. And in a world where power flows from the edge of a sword, dragons may prove to be the ultimate arbiters of justice. Jon Snow, bastard no more, stands on the battlements of Dragonstone and watches his dragon soar through the darkening sky. Somewhere beyond the horizon, his enemies prepare for war. But tonight, for the first time since this all began, he feels ready to face them. The realm is divided. Soon it will be conquered. And when the dust settles, the rightful heirs of Aegon the Conqueror will sit upon the Iron Throne once more. The dragons have come home, and Westeros will burn if it must, but it will be reborn in fire. Chapter 12. Fire and Ice United. The great hall of Dragonstone has been transformed for this moment. Ancient Targaryen banners hang from the vaulted ceiling, the 3-headed dragon on a field of black and red, restored to their rightful place after years of exile. Representatives from across the 7 kingdoms fill the chamber. Some come to pledge fealty, others to assess the strength of these returned claimants. Jon Snow stands before the carved stone throne of Dragonstone, but he has not claimed the seat. Instead, he waits beside it in simple but fine clothing. dark leather and silver mail that speaks to his northern heritage while acknowledging his royal status. His black hair and grey eyes mark him unmistakably as a Stark, yet something in his bearing suggests depths that run deeper than the snows of Winterfell. Daenerys approaches from the far end of the hall, and every eye follows her progress. At 16, she moves with the confidence of someone who has ruled cities and commanded armies. Her silver-gold hair is braided in the style of a Dothraki Khaleesi, but she wears the colours of House Targaryen, black and red silk that catches the light from the great windows. Her violet eyes survey the assembled lords with calm authority. "Lords and ladies of Westeros," Jon begins, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "We have called you here to witness the restoration of House Targaryen to its rightful place in the realm. For too long, usurpers have sat upon the Iron Throne," Daenerys continues, taking her place beside him. "Pretenders who rule through force and fear rather than justice and blood right." Lord Randil Tarly steps forward from among the assembled nobles, his weathered face skeptical. "You ask us to believe that Ned Stark's bastard is truly a Targaryen prince. What proof do you offer beyond your own words?" Before Jon can answer, a thunderous roar echoes through the hall. The great doors burst open as 3 dragons enter the chamber. Nobles scatter and guards reach for swords, but the massive creatures move with careful precision. Drogon leads them, his black scales gleaming, followed by Rhaegal and Viserion in their green bronze and cream gold splendor. The dragons arrange themselves around Jon and Daenerys, and the impossible sight silences every doubt. Rhaegal lowers his great head to nuzzle Jon's shoulder, while Drogon does the same for Daenerys. The bond between dragon riders and their mounts is undeniable, ancient, and absolute. "The dragons know their blood," Varys says softly from his position near the throne, "as they have known it since the days of old Valyria." Lord Tarly's hand falls away from his sword hilt. "7 hells," he breathes. "It's true. House Targaryen has returned," Jon says simply. "But we do not come as conquerors seeking to rule through fire and blood alone. We come offering unity where there has been division, justice where there has been corruption. The boy Tommen sits the Iron Throne by virtue of lies," Daenerys adds. "Born of incest, crowned through murder, defended by those who have brought nothing but suffering to the realm." "And what of Aegon?" asks Lord Velaryon, stepping forward with the seahorse of his house prominently displayed. "The young man who calls himself Rhaegar's son and has taken Storm's End." Jon and Daenerys exchange glances. "Prince Aegon is blood of our blood," Jon replies carefully. "If he proves to be who he claims, he will be welcomed as family. But the Iron Throne belongs to the true heir of Aerys Targaryen, not to one who seizes it through conquest alone. You claim the throne by right of primogeniture," Lord Tarly observes, "as Rhaegar's son over his daughter." "We claim it together," Daenerys corrects firmly, "as aunt and nephew, as the last pure bloodline of the Dragon Kings. The realm has suffered enough from divided Targaryens. It will not suffer from us." Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Cersei Lannister stands on the battlements of the Red Keep, watching the horizon with green eyes that burn with fury and fear. At 34, she has lost much. Her father, her eldest son, her dignity. She will not lose her remaining children without a fight. "They say the dragons are real," Jaime says, joining her on the wall. Her twin brother looks older than his 34 years, the golden hand that replaces his severed right hand gleaming in the afternoon sun. Multiple reports now. Creatures the size of ships, breathing fire above Dragonstone. "Let them come," Cersei says through gritted teeth. "We have faced pretenders before." "These aren't just pretenders," Jaime replies quietly. "If Jon Snow truly is Rhaegar's son—" "He is Ned Stark's bastard," Cersei snaps. "Nothing more. And even if he weren't, he has no dragons. She does. The reports say otherwise. They say he rides the green one, the one named for his father." Cersei's hands clench on the stone battlements. "Then we make sure the city can defend itself. Scorpions on every tower. Wildfire in the tunnels. If they want King's Landing, they'll pay for it in blood and fire." "And if they succeed? If they take the city?" Cersei turns to face her brother, her beautiful face twisted with determination and desperation. "Then we make sure there's nothing left for them to rule." Back on Dragonstone, the formal ceremony continues. One by one, lords approach the throne to declare their intentions. Lord Velaryon kneels first, pledging the loyalty of Driftmark and its fleet. Others follow, smaller houses from the Stormlands, who see dragons as a better option than the boy king in King's Landing. "House Stark remembers," declares Lord Serwyn, representing the scattered northern lords who have managed to send envoys. "If Jon Snow is truly blood of Lyanna Stark, the North will answer his call." "And House Targaryen remembers its friends," Jon replies, helping the older man to his feet. "When we reclaim the North, those who remained loyal will be rewarded." As the afternoon wears on, the pattern becomes clear. The great houses remain cautious, waiting to see which way the wind blows. But the smaller houses, those with less to lose and more to gain, increasingly declare for the restored Targaryens. "It's a beginning," Varys observes, as the last of the lords file out of the great hall. "Not the overwhelming support we might have hoped for, but enough to build upon." "The great houses will come," Daenerys says with confidence, "when they see that we offer stability instead of chaos, prosperity instead of war." "Will we, though?" Jon asks quietly. "Offer prosperity instead of war. Aegon shows no signs of yielding his claim. Stannis still besieges Winterfell. The Lannisters won't surrender King's Landing peacefully." "Then we offer them terms once," Daenerys replies. "Generous terms. Bend the knee, accept justice for past crimes, and live. Refuse." She looks toward where the dragons rest on the castle's towers. "And face fire and blood." "Your Grace," Varys interrupts, holding a freshly arrived scroll. "Word from the north. Stannis Baratheon has taken Winterfell." Jon's head snaps up. "The Boltons?" "Defeated. Rose Bolton is dead. Ramsay Bolton has fled, though rumors suggest he didn't flee far or for long." Varys's expression is carefully neutral. "Stannis now holds your ancestral seat and calls for all northern lords to declare for him as the rightful king." "The rightful king?" Jon repeats. "How many kings does that make now?" "4, by most counts," Varys replies. "Yourself, Queen Daenerys, Prince Aegon, and King Stannis, not to mention young Tommen, who still sits the Iron Throne." "5 kings," Daenerys corrects. "The realm bleeds while pretenders squabble." "Then we end the squabbling," Jon says firmly. "We take King's Landing, depose the usurper, and unite the realm under one crown." "Our crown," Daenerys agrees. As evening falls over Dragonstone, Jon and Daenerys stand together on the castle's highest tower, watching their dragons soar through the darkening sky. The sight is magnificent and terrible. Creatures of legend made flesh, symbols of power that hasn't been seen in the 7 kingdoms for generations. "Varys was right," Daenerys says quietly, "about bringing us together instead of leaving us to fight each other." "He gambled everything on the belief that Targaryens are stronger united than divided," Jon replies. It seems his gamble has paid off. For now, the real test comes when we face our enemies in battle. Then we'll face them together. Fire and ice, dragon and wolf, aunt and nephew. Jon looks at her, his grey eyes serious in the torchlight. We'll give the realm the peace it's forgotten. And if some refuse to accept that peace, then we'll remind them why dragons were once the ultimate arbiters of justice in Westeros. Below them, ravens depart the castle carrying messages across the Seven Kingdoms. To King's Landing, offering terms for surrender. To Storm's End, requesting a meeting with Prince Aegon. To Winterfell, demanding Stannis' submission. And to every great house that has not yet declared, warning that neutrality will soon become impossible. The Game of Thrones has entered its final phase. Multiple claimants still press their causes, but only one side commands dragons. The restoration has begun, and it will not be gentle with those who stand in its way. In the great hall of Dragonstone, Varys stands alone before the empty throne, thinking about choices and consequences. 3 months ago, he stood in Kevan Lannister's solar with a crossbow, ready to kill in service to one Targaryen prince. Tonight, he watches 2 young Targaryens plan the reconquest of their homeland with dragons at their side and unity in their purpose. He chose correctly. The spider's web has held, and the realm will be stronger for it. The dragons circle overhead, their roars echoing across Blackwater Bay like promises and threats combined. In King's Landing, a boy king trembles on a throne built by dragonfire. In Storm's End, a young man with silver hair prepares for war against his own blood. In Winterfell, a would-be king grinds his teeth and plans futile resistance against forces beyond his comprehension. But on Dragonstone, the rightful heirs of Aegon the Conqueror stand united, ready to reclaim their birthright and heal the wounds that have bled the realm white. The Dance of Dragons has begun anew. But this time, the dragons dance together instead of against each other. And when they are done dancing, the 7 kingdoms will kneel to the fire and ice that burns in Targaryen blood. Varys' choice has changed everything. Where once there would have been war between dragon queens, now there is alliance. Where once the realm would have burned in yet another civil war, now there is hope for unity and peace. The Game of Thrones is ending. Soon, very soon, there will be only one throne and one crown, worn by those with the blood of dragons and the wisdom of wolves. The restoration of House Targaryen is complete. All that remains is the conquest. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the 7 kingdoms and beyond, then please like